Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Friday Nights on the Bayou. I'm your host, Grant Chachere, owner of Ruger Sports Media and also a reporter for Crescent City Sports. Jace will join me a little bit later in the show. However, we welcome in a special guest. This is Eric Hell, the director of the Louisiana High School Coaches Association, and also he is a board member for the Louisiana Football Coaches Association. He's coached at the high school level for 25 years, including 5 seasons as the head coach at St. Michael, where he led the Warriors to the playoffs every year. He's also an alum of Brother Martin, where he kicked for the Crusaders, and he also kicked at Nicholls State as well. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Great job digging up some biographical information. You asked me none of that, so great doing your homework. Awesome job, but that's why you are such a great ambassador for high school football and media, and launching this venture, Rougarou Sports Media, as well as working with legend Ken Trahan, and just doing such a great job, you and Jace, and all you do for high school football. It's appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And Eric, I know a couple weeks ago we heard some tragic news, and it really hit hard for the whole state. But Coach Baggs, Charles Bagley, was a longtime head coach at Independence, and he also was a very important part of LSU's prominence in the 2000s as a high school relations director over there at LSU under 3 different coaches. I believe he's not only under Saban, he was also under Les Miles and Coach O. So talk a little bit about his legacy and what he means for high school football for around the state.
Sure. So not only was Coach Baggs a successful coach on the field at Independence High School, had a tremendous win percentage, led his team to many district championships, led his team to the Superdome on 2 occasions. He was a transformational coach. He had such a great influence on so many players and helped those players out just as he was helped along the way when he was in high school, had an opportunity to go to college, became a teacher and coach, a wonderful educator, a guy who was intent on building relationships, even when you didn't know he was trying to do that. Met him as a young coach, and he was a joy to be around. Worked a number of coaches' clinics or summer football camps at LSU when he was under Coach Saban and Coach Miles, and he introduced so many of those coaches that worked those camps to other coaches. And while you didn't realize then it was on purpose, you realize now how Coach Baggs just had a way of connecting you with other coaches. And I've got friends for life that I met 20, 25 years ago working those LSU camps, as well as attending those clinics that he put on, not only the summer clinic for the LHSCA, but the multiple clinics in association with the Superdome Prep Classic, with the LFCA. And then when he was hired by Nick Saban to be the high school relations director, all the relationships he had, and he was in charge of that LSU football coaches clinic every spring, and where hundreds would turn out. And he did such a great job connecting so many people and really showing young coaches and older coaches around the state how important it was to be connected, build relationships, and how important professional development is. And, I just hope that the clinics that I am trusted to do for the Coaches Association as well as the LFCA, I hope I'm just a small percentage as good as he was, because he was the best, and definitely a loss felt by so many. And it was so heartwarming to see the tribute from so many different programs, a moment of silence. You saw at LSU this past weekend in their game against Alabama, they had the decal on their helmet bags, and that just says so much. He was so great to Nick Saban, to Les Miles, and to Coach O, and so cool that he was a part of 3 national championships at the college level. And he and Coach O had a special relationship, And it was great to see Coach O at the services. It said so much to see him there, as well as so many other of his friends and so many coaches whose lives that he touched.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Rest in peace to Coach Bags, and of course, he left a great legacy, not only on Louisiana high school football, but also LSU football as well. But Coach, I want to talk about just the formats. I know you want to break down the dome format because I know a lot of people are asking about that. But I have a particular question. This year we have a lot of public schools in the select divisions now. There's probably more than ever. And actually, I think in Division 1 and 2, you actually have more public schools than you do private schools. Actually, Division 3, I think you have more public schools than private schools as well. But it's especially prevalent in select Division 1 and 2. Do you think that we are getting closer and closer to seeing the traditional format, which is 1A through 5A?
Well, just from a historical perspective, Grant, the split's been around since 2013, and there were 9 trophies for a while, and then the executive committee back in September of 2022, used 4.4.4 to change the structure of the playoff brackets for more competitive brackets, fair play, fewer blowouts, one less trophy. It evened the divisions among select and non-select. And at the time, there were a few more non-selects. That's why the percentage of the teams give you 28 non-select, 24 select in the bracket. That's why it's not an even number, if anybody's wondering about that. But even those coaches who may have been against how it was done and done so suddenly in September without a heads up per se, even those really have enjoyed the brackets, appreciated how it's more competitive. It looks like it used to. I'm not saying that we can get back to 5, but maybe we lower that number to 7 or even 6 with maybe a multiplier, maybe a success factor that you see with other states. So there's a lot of thoughts out there. I know since Mr. Bonine, our executive directors, come to office in late 2014, there have been numerous efforts to end the split, to bring both sides back together. I don't want to say that the effort was a strikeout each time, but I think that we were able to move closer, and we eliminated one trophy to where we went from 9 to 8, and there's more competitive brackets, and you have 4 non-select divisions, 4 select divisions. So we're even from that standpoint. We still have some great football because the regular season is not split, and you see some great matchups between select and non-select programs in district play, and especially in non-district play. So from a coach's standpoint, I think it's created healthy rivalries. It's been great for communities where you can see a Calvary Baptist take on Neville in non-district play, for example, giving you one school from the non-select side and one school from the select side, and from different divisions. So you're starting to see that it's really building or bringing out competitive natures in all of these programs, and that's what you like to see. Just like in business, you want to see more businesses who compete with each other. They bring out competition, fresh ideas, and it makes for better personnel. And I think that's what this does too. It helps create better coaches and better players. And we all know how well Louisiana is recruited. And per capita, we have the largest number of players in the NFL and NFL rosters when the season began in September. So I think a lot more people are on board what the executive committee has done in 2022. and Louisiana high school football more than alive and well.
Definitely, and actually, I just want to bring this up. I know the Division One select Division One, the top three schools are public schools. At Carr is number one, Alexandria is number two, and they have a great shot at going to the state championship. And then also Acadiana is really good as well. And there's a possibility that we may see two public 5A schools in the dome this year for the select Division One. So I think that would be great to see. That shows that hey, public schools can compete with private schools. I mean, it's been done before. And actually, me and Jace were talking with Ray Butler. He runs 14 Productions. We actually talked about how like a lot of the private schools, a perfect example that is Catholic. Like Catholic, you really didn't experience success in the playoffs until after the split. They only went to the state championship once during the traditional bracket. So I thought it was a really interesting perspective that he brought, saying that hey, a lot of the private schools you see today actually benefited from the split, which is kind of a weird thing to think about. But I mean, it was an interesting thought. I want to have your thoughts on that.
Sure, and I think you could look at that, and Catholics definitely had a large amount of success since the split. I think that if you look at the teams that won state championships, I think if you took the team on the other side in non-select, that those would have been really good matchups. And a lot of factors went into that, of course, but it's created for more competitive play, better programs, and it's made for some interesting rivalries. You look at those three teams you mentioned, Acadiana, Ash, and Carr, and then you add in Catholic, you add in Archbishop Rummel, Brother Martin, John Curtis, some schools that have had success, that have won Division I championships. Jesuit as well back in 2014, defeating John Curtis in the Dome. So who's to say that Jesuit team wasn't as good as the team on the other side, right? Zachary and Catholic in 2015 played in week 2. Zachary knocked off Catholic in week 2, and both went on to win state championships. So there's some really good ball played at that level. And then this year I mentioned a whole number of really good programs out there, but St. Augustine is a program. Robert Valdez is in year 1 with the Purple Knights, and they're on the rise, and that's a program that possibly, you look at the bracket, could face Carr if both teams win to get there in the quarterfinals. A program that's definitely built to compete with Carr, and they did so for a little while in their earlier matchup this year.
Definitely. And I know you brought up, maybe reducing the classification. I know when I used to intern for Gridiron Football, Andy Bryson brought that up a lot, how we need to bring back the 1A through 5A, but add in a 6th division. And actually, Ed Daniels, I know he mentioned that he wanted to add a 6th division to the 1 through 5A format. What's your perspective on that? And can it be done?
Yeah, that would be interesting. I remember that a while back there was a proposal out there. It may have been before my time at the LHSAA as director of the Coaches Association, for a super class where you would have the top 16 teams in Division I that would actually move up to super class, or you could have schools who wanted to declare to play up in that super class. That was all some things out there that were talked about, and nothing came to fruition. A great idea, would be interesting. I think what we see right now with 4 brackets of non-select and 4 brackets of select, I think it's working. Can it be better? Have there been glitches in the system with how power ratings are decided? Without a doubt. And you're always looking to improve in different ways, and you're always encouraging member school principals, hey, if you have a great idea, to author a proposal and get support behind it so that it can be voted on at the January annual convention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let's actually now that we're done with that, and it's great, some great points and great info that I think the fans would really like to hear about. Where we are in terms of the playoffs. Oh, also, I know you wanted to mention this too before I move on. Just kind of start talking about the brackets. But talk to me a little bit about the dome format this year. I know it's a little bit different. Usually it's been 2-3-3. This year's 3-3-2. So tell me about that format and how did the LHSAA come up with the conclusion to move to that format?
Right. So one day back in September, late September, early October, we received a call from the Superdome, and they said we have to be out of the Superdome, or that last game really needs to end earlier than it's been ending. And as you mentioned, we had the 2-3-3 format where we had 2 games on Thursday, 3 on Friday and Saturday. And so the 12-3-37 format on that Saturday, you were looking at a start of that last game being about 7:45, and then with the game lasting 2.5 hours to 2 hours and 45 minutes, and then the teams clearing the field after that last game, and then when the dome crew could come out there to begin flipping the field, you're looking at after 11 o'clock. And when you have a noon kickoff the next day, as the Saints do this year, and they did so last year, it just puts the crew at the Superdome in crunch mode. And when you're looking at flipping the field where you have to, quote unquote, wash the logos off the field, the 2-point conversion lines at the 3-yard line, the hash marks, the X that marks the kickoff spot at each 40, and the goalposts have to be adjusted. But not only that, you have parking and security and tickets and cleaning the facility. When you're looking at cleaning the lower bowl at the plaza level, also the suites, also refurbishing the concession stand and getting the concessions ready for 68 to 70,000 people being in the Superdome for a Saints game the next day. So that was the main reason. And remember, we have the Super Bowl coming to the Superdome, and so the NFL close scrutiny on the Superdome with hosting the event. So that's what you're looking at from that standpoint. And that was brought to our attention, and immediately you want to complain, but that's not going to do any good. So you come up with solutions on how best to make it happen, and just keeping it at the 12-3-30 to stay consistent with the first 2 days. Coaches a few years back, when they actually had a game start at 10, when you had 4 games in one day, coaches weren't too happy with that. It really messes up your routine. And I coached in 2 games that began at 12, and I thought the players and coaches on both sides really enjoyed that start, and that's what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I know you wanted to mention that during the podcast. I think that of course, and some people may not agree with it, some people do. However, I think that was the best solution to come up with, especially given the logistics of hosting that type of event at an historic place like the Superdome and everything that they're getting ready to host, like the Saints and the Super Bowl and stuff like that. But let's talk about the teams a little bit. So I know there's a lot. Neville's a team that is a lot of people are thinking might go back to the Dome. I know. Neville's a team that a lot of people like to go back to the Dome. There's a lot of great teams and it really it's probably the most talented. That's in terms of brackets. There's a lot of talented brackets, but also Division 4 select is another one that me and Jace were looking at yesterday. Like, oh, this might be the deepest bracket of them all. But tell me what teams you really think, starting right now, have the best chance of going to the Superdome.
Well, just in talking to a lot of coaches around the state and seeing a lot of football, my Friday routine or Thursday night routine this year, in my 6th year in this position, was probably the largest number of regular season games I've seen in person. Saw 5 games, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been 4 games, but and watching a lot of live stream games on Thursday or Friday night and flipping back and forth just to be a fan of the sport and see how different teams are doing from around the state in all the different classes, because there's some great football at the 1A level. You mentioned the Division IV select bracket. That's about a dozen teams deep, and there's really and more than that. If you probably can go about 16 deep as far as how many teams would not surprise me if they made the Final Four in the semis. And you look at some of those double-digit seeded teams in 4 select, and you're looking at Ouachita Christian as the 11 seed, Kentwood at 12, Southern Labs the defending champ, and they're the 13. Opelousas Catholic's 15, and they're playing really good ball right now. That's where you want to be. Riverside played in the Dome last year. They're 7. And I think Vermilion Catholic, you could probably say, as the 1 seed, 10-0, might be the lukewarm favorite in that division and may have gone wire to wire kind of as the top seed in that bracket. But, it's up for grabs. There's some really good ball at that level. And it's cool to see the depth in a bracket. And what that shows you is that what the executive committee did 2 years ago is working.
Mm-hmm. And I know you watched a lot of football, and like you said, you watched a lot of games, sometimes even 4 or 5 games per week. And me and Jace were kind of go over teams that some people were like kind of sleeping on. And one of those teams is actually Destrehan. And Destrehan earlier this year, of course, a quarterback was out with an injury, and they struggled a good bit due to his absence. And also Jace Thomas is out for a substantial amount of time because of his injury. Now they're all healthy. They've been 5-0 since Jackson Fields has come back. Really, in my opinion, I looked at their side of the bracket. They have a great shot to advance to the Dome as the 10th seed. So what are your feelings about the Wildcats going this playoffs?
Yeah, so you want to be playing your best ball at this time, and Marcus Scott's the head coach, and he's led the Wildcats to the Superdome and to a victory in recent memory. And he does a great job, really good staff. They lost their offensive coordinator, Greg Boyne, to Hahnville. And Hahnville, I believe, is an 8 seed and kind of got things turned around. And so it's good when you have those healthy rivalries. If you mention Destrehan, Hahnville's in the same breath. But you look at Destrehan and you take into account that injury you mentioned, and then just being a great program and those players expecting to make that run. And that's a team definitely that even ahead of the brackets coming out, okay, besides Neville and Ruston, because that's who everybody is looking at getting there. And they were kind of hoping that, okay, we want Neville and Ruston on opposite sides of the brackets. But there's a number of teams that can challenge those top 2 in the quarters, in the semis, and definitely Destrehan's one of them. Here's an interesting lower seed, if you want to use that word, but number 18, Westgate. They were in the Dome recently and won, and really interesting with their athletic ability, program that expects to be there. They draw Santamont, have to go to the pit and play, really tough, and they may not get out of the first round. But it's definitely a team that's a quote-unquote underdog that you kind of look at and you realize, hey, they played STM, they played Turlings in district, and they had a couple of tough early non-district games as well. So one non-select is not as cut and dried as everyone may think, because there's a number of teams in there. It's all about who's healthy and playing their best ball.
And another great team that I want to talk about is Alexandria. Alexandria has been one of the biggest stories of the year so far. I mean, they're 10-0 for the first time in their program's history. They just beat Neville 42-16. Just in their final game, and what a win for the Trojans. But if you look at Ash, I mean, is this kind of the year where they might make a run for their first state title? I know that it's a tough road. I know that lower side of the bracket for Select Division One is tough, but this team is really good, really, really good. I watched their live streams in the Neville game. I'm like, this team gets better and better every week.
Right, and in 2020, going back to when the championship was in Natchitoches during the COVID year, they were a 2-point conversion away from beating Acadiana for the state title. And that's a team that I've watched along the way on live stream, as you did. And every week they just got better. And they're no fluke. And about 4 or 5 weeks in, you realized this is a team that's to be reckoned with. They need to stay healthy. They still need to continue to get better. The quarterbacks got better. Everybody knows about the back. He's an LSU commitment. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows about the back. He's special. He's a game breaker. He's got all the qualities you look for in a great back: vision, balance, physicality, all those things. Speed. He can run away from you. He can run you over. The quarterbacks played well. He's got better if you had any question about their defense, pull up the live stream on YouTube and watch them against Neville. Neville's a serious offense. They defeated Ruston, as Ash did. And defensively, yeah, they gave up some points against Ruston, but they made the key stop at the end of the game, and they made a couple big ones during the game. This time in week 10, they shut down a really good team in Neville. And if you didn't believe going into it, you believe now for sure. So seeing Carr in person week 10 against Rummel, wow, is one word that's all you need, because they are built to make this run. They've been there before with really good teams, and they've failed to make it. This team's built to get there. Ash is a team that can definitely make that run. Acadiana, always good on defense. Split back veer gives them an edge. Catholic gave up a ton of points to Zachary, which was kind of surprising. You'd like to think that was an anomaly. Offensively, they do so much from a creative standpoint with their personnel groups, formations, motions, and shifts. Rummel, you wonder how healthy they are. They were beating Carr 21-20. Lost their receiver. That kind of took some air out of them, but definitely a team to be watched. And St. Augustine as well. And the winningest program in the last 20 or 25 years with the winningest coach ever in John Curtis. That's somebody else. So it's always an exciting bracket.
Mm-hmm. And before I let you go, I have one last question. Are there any teams right now that a whole lot of people aren't really talking about that you think could possibly make a run? It doesn't have to be the Division I, Division II, but even going into Division III and Division IV brackets for non-select and select. Yeah,
so you look at 2 non-select, probably, again, a lot of depth. It's probably 10 deep. 3 select, could be a dozen deep, or 9 to 12 deep. There's a lot of depth out there. St. Charles Catholic is a 12 seed and 2 select, and you look at their record and, don't be deceived by that, because they've been to the state championship the last 4 years. They expect to be there. Just some great brackets out there. 3 non-select, if you ask me before the season, who are the top 4 teams? Let's say St. James, Oak Grove, Sterlington, Union Parish. Not necessarily in that order, but those are the top 4. And lo and behold, they're on opposite ends of the bracket. So I think that's pretty neat. But you got Erath that had a great season as a 2 seed. Kaplan, watching them do what they did to Southern Lab was impressive there, and 8 Kinders to 4 there. 2 non-select. You look at the finalists from last year, Opelousas is a 14 and Cecilia's an 18, and that just goes to show you the depth in that bracket. Number 2, Lutcher kind of paves the way in that bracket at 9-0, but they're about 10 deep. You mentioned maybe somebody that's being slept on. Homer in Division 4 non-select is a 15 seed, and you look at their record, it's not. But then you look at who they played, and man, it's a who's who they lost to. They won the games they were supposed to. They were in some games against better opponents, some higher class opponents. That's somebody, but A Meet's a 12 seed in their bracket. Notre Dame, LCA 8-9. De La Salle's a 15 and a 2 select. And we could go on and on here and just evaluate them all, and know we're running out of time, but that's the beauty of it. You've got 8 great brackets with everybody's got to show up and play on game night. And just because you're a 1 seed doesn't assure you of anything. Mm-hmm. And then those schools that have buys, the top 4 seeds in non-select, top 8 in select, how well do you coach the bye week? That's always interesting too, because we've seen teams wrap up week 10 with 9 or 10 wins, and they get a bye and they're flat. Mm-hmm. And it's all about that, how you coach that. So the first 2 rounds, really interesting, just like you see in March with the NCAA March Madness with the basketball bracket as well. It's very similar. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of excitement. People fill out brackets, but it's all about that first game. Everybody's 0-0 at this time.
Yes, sir. All right, this is Eric Hell, the director of the Louisiana High School Coach Association. He of course organizes all the coaches and everything like that, not only football but basketball, baseball, volleyball, you name it. And he's a great ambassador of high school sports in general. Also a longtime coach in Louisiana high school football. But before I let you go, somebody really special wants to say hello to you, Jace.
What is going on, Coach?
How's it going, Jace?
Nothing much. I'm sure it's a pretty busy time of the year for you, Coach. And, I just can't wait. Can't wait for the playoffs this week. And we're getting back into the nitty-gritty of it. I know I was listening a little bit to y'all conversations before coming on. And, yeah, it seems like this year, Coach, I don't remember a year with as much parity as this year. When we talk about all the teams that we don't really talk about as much, some of these programs that have been really good that struggled early in part of the year, and a lot of it has to do with, there's not a lot of teams that want to play them. So that's the big part of it. But it seems like they're finding their groove. So what I'm intrigued most, and I'm sure you can allude to this as well, is how do these teams, these newer teams like a Haynes Academy that's undefeated, a Covenant Christian that's undefeated, these newer teams, newer programs that are not really used to the stage, fare against some of these teams like the St. Charles Catholics, the Deschers. And we talk about Erewhon being undefeated. They're not really as familiar to the stage either. So what do you think about seeing that progress?
Yeah, that's one of the exciting things too, seeing those schools that struggle sometimes even to be 500 that are now experiencing success. Covenant Christian, kind of a neophyte program, 10-0. Haynes Academy, 9-0. Great for Haynes Academy to see them experience success. 3 seed DeQuincy and 4 non-select. Schools like that, the community schools that, are 5 to 7 win programs every year. And then they just bust out because they have a special group where you've got a program that has 350 to 400 kids in their high school, and sometimes it's just all about having that one group, and then how that one group is able to get those other classes on the roster to play up to their level, and how well you do as a coach and how healthy you stay. There's a lot of luck involved with that as well. So always exciting bracket time. And, as the son of a Coach Jace and Grant, both of y'all are sons of coaches who had success at the high school and college level. Y'all understand that anticipation and excitement, even and have experienced the tough times. And you know how it is when dad goes through a rough year, and then the next year, you're 7-0 after 7 weeks, and there's some excitement in the household, and everybody feels good, and it's great, and it creates so much enthusiasm, and there's an energy in the school. So there's nothing like Friday nights in the playoffs where you're on the bus and you pull up to the stadium and you see the lights in the distance in the dark, and that's what's cool. And for me, a lot of people don't like when the time changes. And for me, being out of it now for 6 years, I like it because it gets dark early.
Yeah.
And then on a Friday, you're just driving around, go to the store or go run an errand, and there's somewhere you're going to pass, and you look a few blocks away. Why is that lit up? Oh, it's Parkview Stadium, in week 10, and you're like, dang, that's something that you miss. So that's just something that I think a lot of coaches feel when that time changes. It's playoff time, and it's that time to be healthy, get right, and get ready to make that run at the Dome.
Yeah, Coach, is that pure as it gets when it comes to football, pure form of football. And I feel like Christmas morning when the brackets come out. So looking forward to the next couple of weeks, and looking forward to seeing you at the Superdome in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, again, it's cool to see you guys there, and y'all are like little kids that day. On that day, that first day, really all 3 days. How exciting it is to see championship football in there, but also to be in what I think is the world's greatest indoor facility. I saw it built as a little kid, and I've seen so many different events and experienced so many different things in that building, seen so many different things, and the history of that building, what it's seen, if it could talk. Wow. But it's so cool to see the transformation. It's almost 50 years old, and other stadiums have been built after the Superdome in the late 70s, early 80s, and they've been torn down or demolished, imploded, with being just 25, 30, 35 years old. And this building just keeps going and getting better. And we're all going to see what the Dome looks like if people haven't been there, the renovations and the improvements. It's really cool. And they get to put on 2 great shows before the Super Bowl, for sure. The high school football championships and the Sugar Bowl, and then the Super Bowl, of course. Not to count the Saints games and the New Orleans Bowl as well, not to discount those, but just some great events.
Favorite time of the year, no doubt. Covering LSU games and covering big-time games. My favorite part of the year is that 3-day period in the Superdome, seeing championship football. So awesome. Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Coach, once again for hopping on. Jason's going to take over for you now, so you can go ahead and do what I do. Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach.
Yep, you got it. Back to the 500th episode of Dancing with the Stars. So that's where I'm heading. Y'all have a good night.
Yes, sir. You have a good night, Coach.
All right, Jace. Jace and guys, whoever's watching, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll get right back to it. So enjoy this video. I know you already saw this, but I guess this is kind of the break video too, the interest video and the break video. So me and Jace will be right back. right, guys, we're back. And Jace, I know you're kind of listening to Eric Held. What were your biggest takeaways from our conversation?
Yeah, y'all hit on a lot of really good things, Grant. Just talking about the biggest probably takeaway was y'all discussion about some of these public teams, playing in the private school brackets and how they fare and how this could change things up. I thought that was an interesting conversation there, and y'all hit on some teams as well that can make runs and just based on past history, what kind of runs they can have. Some of these bigger time programs and really this year more than any other year. It's weird seeing like the Southern Labs, the Washita Christians, the Deshahans, like those teams that we're used to seeing number one and number two, like 11, 12, like double digit seeds. So yeah, talking about that and just having some. I thought it was a really good conversation between y'all two, and Eric Hell's on a lot of really good things for high school football. It's a tough job that he's got as a LHSAA director, and
Not just football too; it's just
yeah,
everything.
everything. It's a tough job, and and we both understand it. Like Eric mentioned, being a coach's sons and being around the sport of football and high school football, and you being around college football even, like it's you get appreciation of that and how hard that job really is, and he does a great job with that organization. And yeah, I mean, like, it's just that time of year to talk about these playoffs and some of the teams that are getting hot. And I think it was a really good conversation about where he's at. What kind of teams he's following in a lot. He's watching a lot of games, and you want to see what the LHSCA director wants to say about some of these games, right? You kind of want the pulse for him and see where he's thinking at. So I thought it was a really good conversation between y'all two.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it was always great to talk with Eric. He's always a great resource to have, especially when it involves the organization. Especially with the Superdome. He kind of explained the format pretty well. It was kind of interesting, to hear that because I think a lot of people. Because I thought it was about travel and stuff like that. It actually has a lot to do with the Superdome themselves. Like, hey, like we need you guys to be out of here as early as possible on Saturday because obviously you got to prepare for the Saints game on Sunday. And then also there's a lot of events going on in New Orleans, especially with the Super Bowl coming into town as well, which will be a hectic time for New Orleans. Although they're used to it, it's just going to still, Super Bowl comes down, it's always going to be hectic. And then also like literally 3 weeks ago, we had Taylor Swift coming to town. And that was basically the pre-Super Bowl, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's probably they probably did that just so they can get in that mode, right? That they can kind of get in that routine of preparing for a big event. It's like, hey, let's just kind of let's make sure that we're not too rusty, when doing big time events, and that Taylor Swift concert in the Superdome, was a precursor to that.
Yeah, and before we get started, I also want to share this. Once again, the show is brought to you by Mid City Pizza. Mid City Pizza. The 2 locations in New Orleans, one on 4400 Bank Street, which is more of their sit down and eat place. We can sit down and eat pizza, sandwiches, appetizers like wings and everything like that. And then also get something to drink as well. They serve alcoholic beverages. If you're in the New Orleans area and you just want just express takeout or delivery, the place to call is MCP Uptown. Mid City Pizza Uptown on 6307 South Mirror Street. That's where usually a lot of people get their orders from. And, this is really good pizza. Kind of show you some going down the website. I know right now it's buffer. Here we go. It was buffered. Now we're back. This is an example. This is a margarita pizza. As you can see, there's a video here. Kind of, like this is the location on Bank Street. It's a really cool place to sit down and eat. It's also New York style pizza. And right here, you got the spicy margarita, the meat monster, the classic Sicilian pizza. It's also served meatballs. So it's a really good place to eat. And my mouth was watering, actually, Jason. This looks really good. I already ate dinner, but I don't want to eat again. So I'm going to get off this website before I get hungry again. But once again, Mid City Pizza, they got 2 locations, one on 4400 Bank Street. The phone number is 504-483-8609. And then for the location in Uptown New Orleans, right across from Tulane's baseball stadium, football stadium. It's on 6307 South Mirror Street. And the number to call to place your order for delivery or takeout is 509-6224. All right, Jace. Now let's talk a little bit about the brackets. We already kind of broke down the brackets, just staying ball in the boot. Once that shows out, I'll send the link out, share with y'all.
Kind of Wednesday, expect them, by the way, Wednesday, expect them to be cranking out.
All right, for sure. Yes. So they're going to be out tomorrow. And though you're going to get my full thoughts, me and Jason's full thoughts on that, and also Alex Allison's and Daryl Falkers, two of the injuries over there at Grand Football. They're also doing a fantastic job as well. So that you probably get more of a full breakdown over there. This one's going to be more of a kind of a mini breakdown, and then also look at all the matchups in the first round as well. But Jace, let's get going. Let's share the first bracket real quick. Let me pull this up. And well, so wrong one. Oh my God, here we go. Hold on, wait. We're good now. All right. Oh, yep, we're good. All right, so here you go. Oh no, we don't have it. Oh my God. Oh, hold on, guys. Hold on. I'm tripping. I was on point the other day. I don't know what the hell is happening. Let me try this again. Here we go. Bang.
Yep.
All right. Jace, you can see that pretty clear.
Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
All right. Let me also make sure, kind of zoom in a little bit. But anyway, Jace, as we kind of went over this on the bracket reveal show, as well as the ball in the boot and our full breakdown of the brackets. Neville was kind of a favorite for both of us. I know you had Neville going to the state championship, winning over Central. I had Neville going to the state championship. I believe it. Oh no, Neville over Ruston. No, you had Ruston beating Central. I'll flip it over.
Yeah.
And I had Neville also had Neville beating Destrehan in this championship.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. Yeah, that's actually what I had. I don't know why I put that Neville over Central. I'm tripping. But anyway, but then so Neville will play the winner of Covington and Barb. Jace, that's kind of an interesting matchup. Who you got now?
Yeah, it's interesting. And the reason why I didn't go with Neville is because maybe it's just what I've seen the last couple of years, and especially off the bye. They've had games coming off the bye and have not looked that great. And this Covington football team, watch out. I mean, it's not going to be a walkover for Neville, even though they'll host Covington. But Covington's a really good football team, man. And I'm not saying it's going to definitely be an upset or anything, but just keep an eye on that one. I mean, Neville could be in for a scare. I do have Neville advancing past Covington though. Here, this Neville football team is definitely their best in quite a while. But I think this is a big year for Central. And the reason why I have Central going to the state championship is I think they have that formula, right? You have a senior quarterback in Jackson Furman. You have a really good defense. I mean, this defense is as good as there is in the state with the Mays brothers, Stephen Rennell. They got some players on that defense side of the football. They got some playmakers offensively, and they can run it when they need to. This Central football team can make a run. They beat Neville last year, so they're not going to be intimidated by them. But I mean, I'm going to go off a little bit of a limb here, and I know a lot of people had Neville advancing to the state championship, but in the mini upset, I think I'm going to go with the Central Wildcats. I mean, their only loss that looked bad on paper was the Catholic High loss, but they played Zach. They did beat Zachary, and they handled pretty much everybody else that they played. So this is still a really good football team, and they've dominated some of these teams in 5A as well earlier in the year. So I like this Central team. David Semino has been also known to make some deep runs in the playoffs too, like last year. And you can make the argument they should have been in the semifinals last year.
Yeah.
So that's another thing too. I like this Central football team, and I think they can make a run to the state title game.
Yeah, what Jace is referring to that one for anybody who's wondering what they lost. Yeah, well, they had there was a certain play against Dutchtown where Carter Hanbury was running the ball. His knee was down, but then he got up. I think it was he scored. Either got the the game-winning first down, the game-winning touchdown. I forgot
I think
the
it
whole
was the game-winning touchdown, and
game.
it ended up being the game-winning touchdown.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So there's a lot of controversy
Yeah.
behind that game, and really, if that play doesn't happen, if he was ruled down, I mean, we're probably looking at Central going to the semifinals where they played Zachary, and really, they might have a great shot to beat Zachary because they nearly beat him in the regular season. But just moving on, you got Terrebonne and Chalmette. I'm going to pick Terrebonne to advance to the second round, where I think they'll have a rematch with Hanville.
That'll be a good one.
I think Hanville should beat H.L. Bourgeois. However, Bourgeois got some decent players on there, so I think they'll make it a little bit interesting. But I got Hanville playing Terrebonne in a rematch from early in the year, where Hanville beat Terrebonne in the Battle of the Tigers. Really, and they're both the district champions. Were really them, both of them, and then also the district had a three-way tie for the district title. It was also Terrebonne's first district title since 2010. So it's been close to 15 years since the last time the Terrebonne Tigers won their the district title. So that should be a good one in the second round. Moving on down, Mandeville will play Thibodaux. I think, Jace, we're both in agreement that Mandeville will beat Thibodaux. I think that's kind of obvious. So, but this one's going to be really interesting. Really, these next two ones are right here. Parkway and West Monroe, West Washita and Denham Springs. Parkway is solid on both sides of the ball, especially on offense. Now, they did give up 40-plus points to Evangel last week in their loss. And then West Monroe, they're 5-5, but they have some decent talent on their team as well, but they're also really young. And it's really a disappointing year for the Rebels, 5-5. That's not. We see West Monroe finish the season with a 500 record. So, Jace, what do you like about these two matches? Oh, and then I got to mention West Washita and Denham Springs. West Washita has had a great year. I believe they had I think they were the district champions, and I think they finished with a 8-2 record. I actually double checked that, but Denham Springs is a team that you're very familiar with. Of course, Gridiron Football's headquarters is actually in Denham Springs, and also right down the street from Denham Springs High School. Jerry Horn's a very talented quarterback. I think he has an opportunity to create a Cinderella run for the Yellow Jackets. I think Denham Springs is actually one of the more interesting teams in this bracket. But West Washita is 9-1. Their only loss coming to Franklin Parish in a 29-27 loss. But other than that, they've played some pretty good teams and won every single game. So, Jace, what do you like about these two matches right here?
Yeah, those are some interesting first-round matchups. I know Thibodaux this year has gone through a coaching change, and it's been kind of a struggle for them. But they also play in that district too, like you mentioned, with the three-way tie with Hanville, with Destrehan, with Terrebonne. So that's a tough district that they really play. I think that's one of the most underrated districts in the state. That is a really tough district. But Mandeville, I know Nate Shepard was the big key headlining guy, but this is still. I don't think it changes that much, even as big of a loss as Nate Shepard was. This team can be a quarterfinal team. They can definitely still be that way because Ben Hendricks is a solid quarterback. You talk about Isaiah Baham at the running back position. If it wasn't for Nate Shepard, he'd be starting pretty much for a lot of different programs out there. He's a really good running back. He went to our camp in Covington earlier this year. And defensively, they got some talent too. So this is a really solid Mandeville team that can still make a run. You mentioned Parkway, West Monroe. West Monroe is still, they're still the brand, right? Even though it's been a disappointing season, 5-5, but they're young, new first year, full-time head football coach as well. Has been in the mix. So you kind of expect a little bit of that, especially the district that they play. And like those three of those 5 teams in their district they lost to are 3 of the best teams in the state. So, it's going to be tough. And, West Monroe can definitely pull off the upset, but Parkway has been really, really good this year. That was a good point you made, Grant, about kind of ignore that last result because Evangel was in desperation. Like they knew that they had to win that game to get in the playoffs most likely. And really 40-something points to Pop Houston is really not that much. Defensively, they really did. As much as they did, that's actually not that bad. But I like Parkway here. I think they will get a little bit of a test from West Monroe, Light Parkway to advance and play Mandeville. But upset here, Denham Springs, I think, will be West Washita. I think that could be the upset. And also keep in mind, a coach that's been very familiar with early upsets in the past has been Brett Beard, as he did that at Live Oak when he pulled off the big upset against Ruston. I mean, early in his coaching career, and it was a first round playoff game. So Jerry Horn's a really good quarterback. They did pull off some upsets this year in that district they're in. So they're not going to be too intimidated by West Washita. So I can see it being a Baton Rouge matchup in that second round between Denham Springs and Central.
Yes, if you wonder what Jason's talking about, so Parkway, in fact, does have a solid defensive team. However, they gave up 35 points to Sea Bird. They gave up 45 to Airline. Airline scores on everybody. To be fair, really, that's actually one of Airline's better defensive performances of the year. They only allowed Parkway to score 22 points, and of course, Evangel. I mean, that was kind of a desperation game for Evangel.
Mm-hmm.
They played their hearts out, and they were able to pull off the 45-43 upset over Parkway. But Parkway is still I know a lot of people look down on some Shreveport teams for how they play defensively, but Parkway is a solid defensive squad. I mean, I know, of course, it got some points on them, but I mean, to be fair, they also played against Evangel and Airline, who are offensive juggernauts. I mean, of course, Evangel threw for over 800 yards against Captain Shreve. They kind of let you know that, but kind of let you know how much offensive power they have. But Parkway is a very interesting team, and if they're able to beat West Monroe, that'll be a very interesting matchup at Mandeville.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be a very interesting matchup. And I think Parkway has a great shot of upsetting Mandeville in the second round of events to the quarterfinals, where they'll probably play Central.
They can go on a little bit of a run, Grant. Like if you're talking about teams, if you're trying to fill your brackets out, like Parkway can be a team that can make a run, and it helps them too, knowing that they don't have to play Nate Shepard. So I think the difference for them, for Mandeville, I think it's going to be one game. I think Mandeville finds a way to get the quarterfinals, but I think Nate Shepard, like they made the semifinals last year, I think the difference is that between a quarterfinal finish or a semifinal finish, that's the difference Nate Shepard makes for that team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also want to mention Denham Springs. Denham Springs also kind of. I like if you look at the record, I know they're 6-4, but they're kind of been up and down. I mean they beat Hammond. It was an improved team, but they beat Hammond 19-14. Central, they lost to Central 31-6. They went on a 3-game winning streak, beating Woodlawn, Baton Rouge, East Ascension, both decided by 3 points, and then they had a 38-12 win over Southern Lab. Then the next 2 weeks, they lost against Live Oak in an upset loss, 21-6. Then they lost against Dutchtown, 27-13. The next 2 games, they beat Prairieville, 49-0. And then they upset Walker, 21-14, literally a week after Walker beat Dutchtown for Dutchtown's first loss of the year. And then they lost against St. Amand to end the season. So they're kind of an up-down team, but like I said, James, Brett Beard has a history of having those early round upsets.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on to the lower end of the bracket right here, you got, Russ is the 3rd seed. You're really high on Russ, and actually you have Ruston win the state championship, despite them losing against Alexandria and Neville a few weeks ago. But they will play the winner of Zachary and Sam Houston, and to be honest with you, I think Zachary's going to be. Sam Houston's a good team; they got some great players, but I think Zachary will win that game, and they'll play Ruston. And this is a game where I think Ruston is on upset alert. Zachary, I mean, usually you don't put Zachary in the category of this is a sleeper team in a bracket, but that's the way it is for Zachary right now. They're even though they're 7-3, they're the 14th seed, and usually in the past they've usually gotten the first round bye, but this is kind of a weird year for Zachary. But do you think the Broncos have a great shot of getting revenge from last year's state championship game and upsetting Ruston in the second round?
That's a good question, Grant. This is a rematch of the state championship game last year, but the reason why I don't think Zachary really has a great shot here against Ruston. The reason why I think that is because it's just a bad matchup for Zachary. If you look at the last couple of years, the teams that have had success, and it has been few, because the Zachary football team has been a powerhouse under David Brewerton. the teams that have success against Zachary are the teams that can run the football and just run the football right at them. And that's what Ruston did a couple of years ago. To advance to the state championship, they had to go through Zachary, defeat Eli Holstein, and get to the dome. Well, that was because they ran right at Zachary, and I think they can do that again. And they saw what Catholic did. They saw what Catholic did against Zachary and say, "Hey, we're going to run right at them. We got a great running game. You got Brantley at quarterback, and they got a really good running game as well. They can run the football. And Jordan Hayes at running back. That's what they're going to do. They're going to run right at Zachary, and because of that, I don't really like the matchup there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, moving on down, we're going to discuss all these matchups. Kind of start from the bottom. Airline will have a bye. They'll play the winner of St. Amand and Westgate, and that'll be a very interesting second round matchup.
Yeah.
I know Eric said that's a matchup you need to watch it for in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of upset, I know he said Westgate, but St. Amand is also a really good team too, and they're well coached and they're physical as well.
They're not going to be intimidated by Airline. I can tell you that much.
No, yeah,
intimidated.
Not at all. Chachere Hand will play Washington Parish, which is a game I will be going to this Friday. I'm very excited for that. They'll whoever wins that game will play the winner of Northwood Shreveport and Salmon, which I do believe Northwood Shreveport will advance to the second round. I'm going to pick that one, and I think Chachere should beat Washington Parish. And then in this game, I'm kind of torn. I'm going to pick Westgate, but I wouldn't be shocked if St. Amand won that game.
That should be a good first round game. If you're looking for first round games to go to, that Samall Westgate game is going to be a interesting one, just because of Samall's grittiness and also seeing Westgate's athleticism going against each other. That should be a great matchup.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup. And Live Oak will travel to take on Southside. And then Walker will take on Dutchtown in the first round.
Matchup
and Walker, like I said, Walker gave Dutchtown its first loss of the year, and actually their first and only loss of the year, and that should be an interesting matchup. Jace, of these matchups, which one intrigues you the most?
That's a good question. The Dutchtown storyline intrigues me because of the loss to Walker, but I think we talk about games here. It's Samall Westgate. I mean, just looking, not only it's the closest in seeding, I just like the styles there. These are two teams that are not going to be intimidated, and the winner of that game, it could set up for them to make a run, because Airline is, if their offense is just a little off, they are vulnerable. I mean, they've been winning a lot of shootouts over the last couple of years, obviously so. And I just want to say congrats to Kenny Darby getting that commitment to LSU, well deserved, and he definitely deserves a commitment to LSU. He's the real deal. Ben Taylor throwing the football too. That's exciting offense, but when it gets cold, it gets wet. Like, it's vulnerable when you're playing like that in November and going towards December, right? So the winner of that Samall Westgate game, it could set up for them pretty good, make a pretty good run. So that game really intrigues me. At the Pit is not an easy place to play. I mean, it's confined. It's in the swamp. Mosquitoes. There's going to be the mosquitoes over there in November. Trust me. But that's going to be a fun game. And Westgate's always they are always capable of pulling out the win. So that game intrigues me the most.
Yeah, and of course, I also want to mention Dutchtown. They'll play Washington Parish. That's be an interesting matchup. And really, let's say Airline does win the second round. But I actually think I had Dutchtown going to the state championship. I think they have a great shot.
Yeah,
because they've been there. They've been there before. They're 2 years removed from the state championship. So a lot of those guys remember playing in the dome, including Chase Thomas playing in the dome. A lot of those guys played in the dome.
Yeah,
and I think they have a great. This side of the bracket is really favorable to them. It really is. I mean, if they win their first round game, I think they're gonna beat the.
They'll beat Northwood Shreveport. I like that.
Northwood Shreveport.
And I think it'll be Airline too.
Yeah.
So or Samall. Let's say Samall pulls off the upset, whatever.
Yeah.
They'll get there. I think the intriguing matchup will be the semifinals, because I can see a team like Ruston playing them, and I've seen that a couple years ago in the Dome Grant. That was like two legitimate college football defenses going out. The speed on that field a couple years ago with Ruston and Dutchtown, I was impressed with the speed of the defense by both those defenses, and with the talent that both those two teams have. Um, yeah, I can definitely expect that matchup in the semifinals.
Mhm. All right, moving on to Division Two, non-select. Uh, the number one seed is Franklinton. I think they have I think they have a great shot of advancing very far, even going to the dome. However, I do not have them going to the dome, and neither does Jace. We both had Lutcher winning over Franklin Parish
Yep.
for this one. That will be our full breakdown of that one will be up on YouTube tomorrow. Jace will have that uploaded because that was on his show, not my show. So right now we're just doing a mini breakdown and of course also going over some of the first round matchups. But Franklinton will have the bye, and they'll play the winner of West Feliciana and Carroll. Iota will host Assumption. Iota is the 9th seed, as you can tell, and Assumption is the 24th seed. Lakeshore will take on Rain. They will host Rain as the 8th seed. Rain is the 25th seed, and the winner of that game will take on Iota and Assumption. Iowa will take on Lagrange, and they'll play the winner of that game will take on the winner of Minden and Waspin.
Yeah.
That should be a very interesting matchup, Jace. Bruley will take on South Beauregard, and they'll play Franklin Parish, who has the first round bye. Jace, which of these first round matchups intrigue you the most?
It's Minden Waspin. Minden had a great start to the season, undefeated start, and they got some really good talent. Jonathan Bradford, he went to our camp earlier this year and up in Bossier, and he's a really good lineman and probably one of the better ones in the state. I think Coach Hurd does a really good job with that program, and in Waspin, with the run that they've had too, they've got some really good teams. Minden's 8-2. Looking at it, they're 2 losses this year. North DeSoto and Northwood. Those are 2 playoff teams. And you look at Waspin, and a lot of people were expecting them maybe to take a next step because they surprised a lot of teams last year, Grant, with the season that they had last year. They fell back to earth a little bit, 5-5, but this is still a dangerous team. Looking at it, they lost to Franklin Parish, West Washita Parish, Iowa, and Bastrop. Those are 5 playoff teams they lost to. So this team is really good defensively. They're talented, and that should be an interesting matchup because they got some talented athletic guys on the defensive side. I expect this to be a lower scoring game, kind of a grinded out type of game. But I like Minden here to advance, though.
Yeah, and kind of go over some of my picks. Who do you got winning this West Feliciana Carroll game? I got West Feliciana, but Carroll's an interesting team as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting game. I'm gonna go, and I think the drive here makes a difference too. West Feliciana and Carroll having that home field, especially in Spencer Verrett from LHSAA Network. Puts it best. Like when it's a drive distance like that, Carroll to West Feliciana to St. Francisville, that takes a toll, and I think it will here. I like West Feliciana here and to advance to the next round.
I got West Feliciana as well. Iota and Assumption, Lakeshore and Rain. Who you got in those 2 matchups?
I got higher seeds winning out. Iota winning and advancing to the next round. Lakeshore, even though Rain's got a really great athlete, Kylan Wheeler over there for the Wolves. I like Lakeshore to still win that football game. That should set up a very intriguing matchup between Lakeshore and Iota in the next round.
Also, Rain can't stop anybody. They can't even stop a raindrop from falling to the ground. Their defense is kind of oof. You want
he has to score every time he touches the ball, basically.
I know you kind of it's like I said, I was like it's Kylan Wheeler, and then he's not only going to take on the opposing defense, he also got to hope his defense steps up as well. Their defense, oh boy. Oh boy. Anyway.
It's tricky to defend when you can't defend it right. So it's gonna be a long night.
Oh yeah, exactly. But yeah, Frank Ginn does a great job, especially with that offense. He's been running that offense forever, and the reason why he keeps running that offense because it keeps working and nobody can stop it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're both gonna pick Iowa to win this game.
Yeah.
But like you picked Minden to beat Waspin. I got Minden winning that game as well. Although Waspin is still a very good team as well. It could go either way, but I'm gonna pick Minden in that one. And then Bruley and South Beauregard, I'm going to have to pick Bruley in that one to win and play against Franklin Parish in that one. How about you, Jace?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on the top side of the bracket for sure.
All right, awesome. Jennings will get the first round bye. They will play the winner of Opelousas and Basham, which will set up a very interesting second round matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Northwest will take on DeRitter in the second round. The winner of that game will take on the winner of Plaquemine and Grant. Plaquemine's the 6th seed. Grant is 27th seed. North DeSoto will take on Woodlawn of Shreveport in a battle between two Shreveport area schools. They will take on the winner of Belle Chase and North Vermilion. And then Pearl River will take on. They will host Cecilia, who is the defending state Division II non-select runner-ups. Of course, Opelousas is the defending state runner-ups. We mentioned them. We're going to mention them in just a bit. They're the 14th seed, but Cecilia is the 18th seed. They'll travel to take on Pearl River in the slide-out area for that one. That should be another really good matchup. And then, of course, they'll take on Letcher, who has the first round bye, and that one. But Jace, of these matchups I just mentioned, which one intrigues you the most?
Yeah, for this, go down a little bit, Grant, just to make sure. I think Pearl River Cecilia is intriguing because Pearl River's got a tough back to stop. Tayshaw Badon over there at Pearl River, and they got some good players. At Sean Jenkins, I believe, at the receiver position, he plays some running back too. It should be a high-scoring game. If you like offense, that should be a game to watch. Diesel Solari as well, and they've been doing a quarterback rotation. Him and Ellis Stewart. Ellis Stewart's been playing a lot at quarterback. Ellis is actually committed to playing a gridiron football All-American Bowl game as well. But they got some really good talent, and either way, I mean, I expect Cecilia to win this football game, and that will be intriguing, a second-round matchup because of Letcher's defense and Cecilia's offense, those conflicting styles. But that should be interesting to watch, matchup to watch, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. How about this Opelousas?
Opelousas matchup too. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are saying Opelousas to win that game, and I think the thing about Opelousas, they can make a run only if they can get past first round. That they're just one of those type of teams that either boom or bust, and that's a tough matchup against Bastrop. And be honest with you, I don't like that matchup either way for Jennings. No matter if it's Bastrop that wins that football game or it's Opelousas that wins that football game. But yeah, Opelousas, I know they're feeling pretty confident, because they were the defending state champions in that bracket. But they got the Downs brothers over there at Bastrop. They played some tough games this year. They're not going to be intimidated by Opelousas. I know they have to go and travel to Opelousas, but that should be a really good football game as well. And I still expect Opelousas. They might get a little bit of a scare, but I think Opelousas is built for this, and Opelousas is built for a deep run in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And then this Northwest to Ritter, that should be a pretty interesting one.
Yeah.
Although I'm going to pick Northwest to win that game. They'll take on Plaquemine. That should set up a very interesting second round matchup. Yeah. I'm gonna go with Opelousas to win that win over Bastrop. I think did you have to pick Opelousas to win against Bastrop?
I have Opelousas winning. Yep.
Okay, I got you. And then I have Northwest.
I have Northwest. Yep.
Plaquemine,
North DeSoto.
Mm-hmm. Belle Chase over.
Yep. And Cecilia.
Okay, gotcha. Awesome. So those are those will set up our second round matchups. Now let's move on. Actually, before we move on. We both had Letcher over Franklin Parish.
Yes.
I know it's gonna be the same reason. I think Letcher as the favorite to win this one, just because they're 2 years removed from going to the state championship. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of players. They have a lot of players coming back from last year's team. They have 10 starters on the opposite side of the ball, and their defense has been lights out. I think they've had 5 or 6 shots this year, and actually, let me pull this. So they got 5 shutouts this year, and they've had all but one of their games, they've allowed 12 points or less. So that just shows you how the highest point total they've allowed all year was because Edie White in a 27-20 victory. So this Letcher defense has been awesome. And then Franklin Parish has been one of the better stories in in Louisiana. They've had some very very impressive victories, including their eye-opening win over Calvary Baptist early in the year. So, Jace, why did you pick Lutcher over Franklin Parish? Do you have any reasoning besides copying off your boy Grant here?
Well, I saw this team play, Grant. I was there against E.D. White. That E.D. White game you talked about, even though it was the most points they gave up, those 20 points, they were hard to come by. Like Franklin, like basically E.D. White had to drive down the length of the field, convert a couple fourth downs. Like it was tough, earn 20 points. And this defense is the real deal. Rashad Sterling is a real deal. They're actually really good. We talk about their defensive front, but all three levels of the defense, there's a reason why they have shutouts because all three levels of defense are just that good. Zach Jenkins is a baller. You can tell he's a coach's son. He's just a gamer, and they have an X factor too offensively in Trenton Chaney. He's that difference maker, whether it's like breaking the game as a running back, but I think he's one of the best. There's a lot of great running backs in the state, Grant. I'm not sure there's more. There's a lot of them as versatile as him because he can beat you out wide as a wide receiver. He can beat you running inside, outside. To me, they've been there. They've been in the state championship game. Dwayne Jenkins is an excellent football coach, and they're just well balanced. And it's tough to win there at Lutcher. I mean, it's a college atmosphere in that stadium. So I got to go with Lutcher. Franklin Parish is a great story. Coach Burnett does a great job. Desiree Ellis, like this is going to be this type of run he puts on that puts a lot of colleges will notice seeing him play. I think it'll be a great opportunity for him to be in the Superdome and show what he can do because he's a really good talent. But I just don't think they're there yet to beat Lutcher.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you there, and just kind of the same thing. I think Franklin Parish is getting closer and closer to becoming that program, especially under a coach like Coach Burnett. However, Lutcher has a lot of experience being those type of spots, which I think that's where the advantage will lie. But Jace, moving on to Division III non-select, we're past halfway through the non-select brackets. St. James is the number 1 overall seed. They will play the winner of Baker and Donzeville. Baker's the 16 seed. Donzeville is a 17 seed. Pine will take on St. Helena. And the winner of that game will take on the winner of Kaplan North Webster. Union Parish will take on Oakdale. And that should be honestly that could be an interesting one. I don't know, but Union Parish is looking really good, and I think their non-district schedule. I know there's a 5th and 28th seed, but Oakdale is a solid. They have. I mean, I'm gonna look at this. I think they've usually had a solid team. I know they only won 3 games. Actually, I've changed my mind. I'm tripping. I might be tripping a little bit, but anyway, but Union Parish, that's a very interesting team. Me just very high on. Union Parish had a very tough non-district schedule, which the last couple of years has really prepared them to go far in the playoffs because they play teams that are either better, just as good or better than the teams they'll play in the playoffs. The winner of that game will take on the winner of Red River and Winfield. Westlake will take on Crowley, and they'll play Kinder, who Kinder has the first round bye. So, Jace, of these matchups, which one kind of intrigues you the most? I know it's not maybe as intriguing as some of the others, but is there any games you think, hey, maybe this team might be on upset alert?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of looking at it from the top side of the bracket. I mean, a game that I want to have my eye on the most is a game like I think Pine and St. Helena. I mean, these are 2 teams in that area that know each other and are familiar with each other. St. Helena's got some pretty good athletes there, and Pine, they've won the games that they should, right? I mean, and they also had chances to play Amy Jules Sumner and fell short in those 2 games. So St. Helena, on the other hand, they've had some interesting runs in years past. Now they've only won 3 games, but they've also lost some tough games. They lost 22-18. They've lost 29-26. They lost 20-14, and they lost 21-20. So think of those plays that can go either way. We're not talking about 3-7. We're talking about 7-3. And if those games just went the other way. So that is a game I have my eye on, but I mean, as far as like a potential upset here, but I'm going to go with Pine to beat the matchup with Kaplan next round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this would be a very, very interesting game as well. I have to agree with you there. So let's break down some of these matches real quick on the top half of the bracket. Baker, well, pick the winners for each game of this top half of the bracket, but Baker and Donaldsonville, who you got?
I got Baker.
I'm going to have to agree with you there.
Seeing them against Episcopal, I got Baker winning that game.
Yep. And Pine and St. Helena.
I have Pine, but watch out. I mean, it could potentially be an upset if they're not careful.
Yep. And how about Kaplan and North Webster?
I like Kaplan. I like Coach Loteef. He's been some deep runs. I got Kaplan.
Mm-hmm. Union Parish. Okay. We're gonna have to both agree with Union Parish here. But Red River and Winfield, that could be a pretty interesting one.
Yeah. But I like how Red River finished the season. I feel like they're playing their best football right now. So I'm gonna go with the Bulldogs. They won their district. They also had a tough start to the season, but they've really bounced back and won their district. So I'm gonna go with Red River.
Mm-hmm. And what about Westlake and Crowder?
That's to be interesting as well because Crowder's got some pretty good athletes, but Coach Richardson is a really good coach, and Westlake's got some pretty good talent as well. I'm gonna go with Westlake.
Okay, now on to this the bottom half of the bracket. Oak Grove, the first round bye, they'll take on the winner of Mansfield of Oils. Lakeside will take on they will host Bogalusa in the first round. The winner of that game will take on the winner of Sterlington and Patterson. Gina will take on Caldwell Parish. They host Caldwell Parish, and the winner of that game will take on the winner of Church Point and Port Allen. The last game in the first round, you have Laurelville. They will be hosting Barksville in a first round matchup, and the winner of that game will take on Erath. Of some of these games, which one intrigues you the most in some of these first round matchups?
On the bottom side, I would have to say I think Church Point Port Allen could be an interesting one because Church Point has, it has some great regular seasons, but there's been some times where despite going 9-1, 10-0, they've fallen short. They haven't in the playoffs. So this is an opportunity for them against Port Allen. Port Allen has a dangerous player that could beat you. And that's Brennan Gibson. So when you're not careful, like he is that type of guy that could take a game over. But I still think Church Point finds a way to win that football game. I mean, I know Bogalusa hasn't had a great year, but Lakeside hasn't been in this position as much as being like, the team that's a higher seed and can make a run. So I'm interested to see how Lakeside takes on that role. But looking at these matchups, I mean, Warville, Marksville should be the most evenly matched game too. But yeah, there's some intriguing games there to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jace, let's pick some games here.
Yeah.
Mansfield and Boyles.
I'm gonna go with Mansfield.
Mm-hmm. This one should be interesting. Mansfield.
Right. Yeah.
That game could go either way. Mansfield, of course, they are 6-4. They finished the season with a 4-game winning streak.
Yeah.
They beat Rosepine, Winfield, Lakeside, and Manny. So that should be a very interesting one. And speaking of Manny, they just their coach recently resigned, and then also I found this out.
Kevin Cook, right?
Kevin Cook also resigned too from Tioga.
Yeah, that happened today as well from Tioga.
Yeah, and the thing is, I was 14. Ray Butler had posted this, and of course, Ray Butler is the guy that runs 14-0 Productions, and he posted a thing where it showed the longest losing streaks right now in Louisiana, and it was just so weird seeing Manny on that at 11.
Yeah, it doesn't.
They're 0-10 because they finished the season 0-10. It was a weird thing to see. Really, it was just as weird seeing Sean Curtis having their first losing regular season since JT's first year. Well, the first year the program even existed, really. So it's just a weird. It's kind of a
Twilight Zone type of year.
Yeah, it really has been. Mm-hmm. But Mansfield is 6. They're 6-4, and they finished with a 4-game winning streak. Boyles is a very interesting team as well. They're 5-5. But in their last 7 games, they went 5-2. So I mean, their only 2 losses were against Holy Saving Menard in a 0-8 game, and then Kinder in a 26-30 game. And Kinder's a really good team as well. So it really is a toss-up right here. But I'm going to have to go with the Boyles in this one. I'm going to pick the Boyles to beat Mansfield in the first round, and they will take on Oak Grove, which good luck.
Yeah, either way, that's gonna be fun.
Good luck.
Either way.
Good luck. Lakeside and Bogalusa, who you got?
I'm gonna go with Lakeside. I think Bogalusa has had a little bit of a down year, but I'm gonna go with Lakeside.
I'm gonna go Lakeside, and I think we're both gonna come to agreement that they'll play Sterling.
Yes.
Okay. So Gina and Caldwell Parish going to pick Gina, and I think this one's kind of a toss-up as well. I mean, Church Point depends on which Church Point we see team we see.
Right.
Port Allen's got some talent, some decent talent as well, despite them being a 23rd seed. What's your pick in this one?
I'm still going to roll with Church Point, though. I think they got a really good running back, and they've always had really good running backs, and the line of scrimmage is tough here, too. So any opportunities you can, run the football and play keep away from a guy like Brendan Gibson, for him not to touch the football, that's going to help him here. So I got Church Point.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Church. I'm going to have to roll with Church Point in this one as well. Lowerville, Marksville. This is kind of a toss-up game here as well. Lowerville, I just had this pulled up. They finished the season 4-5, but in their last 5 games, they went 4-1. Their only loss was against Catholic New Iberia in a 7-42, 42-7 loss. Marksville, on the other hand, they finished with a 5-5 record, and they had some tough matchups as well. They won against the Boyles 30-16 to start off the season, but then they had a 2-point loss to Church Point, a 3-point loss to Iota, and then also their other 3 losses were against Gina, a 36-13 loss to Gina, 30-8 loss to Buckeye, and a 30-6 loss. Those last 2 games I just mentioned were the last 2 games of the year, but they did beat Port Bear and Oakdale and Caldwell Parish and Vidalia, and then also had a impressive win over Boyle. So, Jace, this is a toss-up. Who you got here?
Yeah, it is a toss-up, but I'm going to lean with the home team here. I'm going to lean with Loreauville. Mm-hmm. And the first 4 games, you look at it, they started the season 0-4, but the teams that they lost to were Erath, Vermilion Catholic, Jeanneret, and Kaplan. Talk about a way to start the season. Those are the 4 teams that you play. But they've also won 4 of the last 5. So I think playing those games early on will really help them here. And playing at home will make a difference, too, in those small town communities. So it's a toss-up, but I'm gonna go with the home team.
And we both had Oak Grove and Union Parish advance to the state championship, with Oak Grove winning. I kind of explained my piece why I think Oak Grove will win that game. I think it's just both teams. I think both teams are going to have experience, and they both have 2 really fantastic coaches. Both are state championship winning head coaches. But I'm gonna have to roll. I'm rolling with Oak Grove just because they have the difference maker Jackson Bradley. Yeah. And Union Parish is a great player as well, but Jackson Bradley is what makes everything work in that offense. But Jace, how about yourself? Why you had Oak Grove?
You nailed it on the head. You nailed it on the head, and that's the reason why I have Oak Grove winning. They have the best player in this bracket, and it's Jackson Bradley. And you give him the football in his hands. He is a difference maker, not only throwing the football but running the football. He's a difference maker. He's a state champion, a multi-time state champion, and I think he's going to end his career, prolific career at Oak Grove, in their state championship. And it'll be a great introduction for Oak Grove as they move up from Division 4 to Division 3.
Mm-hmm. We're going to move on to the last bracket of the non-select brackets, and that is the non-select Division 4. Haynesville, of course, is the number 1 overall seed. We both had Haynesville going to the state championship in the top half of the bracket. They'll take on the winner of Montgomery and Vinton. And the next matchup got Welsh and St. Mary. That could be an interesting one. Faraday and Lake Arthur. Then you get North. So the winner of those two will play each other in the second round. Those two games will play each other the second round. Then you got North Iberville being unfamiliar territory in the first year of their varsity football. They will host Oberlin in the first round, and the winner of that game will take on General Trask in Centerville. And then Grand Lake will take on Jonesboro Hodge. Grand Lake will be the home team for that one. The winner of that game will take on Jeanneret, who has the first round bye because they're a top 4 seed. So, Jace, of these matchups, which one interests you the most?
I think looking at it, the reason I'm going to say this is I'm curious to see how North Iberville does. This is their first ever playoff game. How do they handle that? Even though on paper North Iberville should win this game, like I'm curious how they handle it. A playoff, winner go home, first time playing in varsity. I'm just intrigued by how they deal with that atmosphere. Another game to keep an eye on for in this top side of the bracket is going to be Grand Lake and Jonesboro Hodge. The reason I bring that up is because even though Jonesboro Hodge has had a tough season, they ended the year on a little bit of a hot streak. I mean, I know they've struggled in the first couple of games. They've only had one win, but ever since the last their forfeit win against Plain Dealing, they defeated Glenbrook, defeated Cedar Creek, so a little bit of a hot streak there. They're just a really young football team. Grand Lake is another team that's been known for making runs into the playoffs too, but they have won 4 straight in a row. And I tell you what, I mean, Grand Lake is a team to watch out for to make a run. I mean, I think they match up pretty good against Jeanneret, so that should be a great second round matchup. And one more game I want to talk about on the top side is Faraday and Lake Arthur too. Faraday as well. They come back and had a great season out of that for a couple down years. Lake Arthur still's got some talent on their football team too. So that should be an interesting matchup as well. With the 8-25, maybe look at Lake Arthur a little bit. They've won 5 games. So they were looking good early in the season. They faltered a little bit towards the last stretch of the season, lost 3 games in a row, but they were looking really good. They were 5-2. So that'd be a game to watch out. What is it? The 5-2 version or is it the 0-3 version at the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean that 0-3 version of the year was pretty ugly. I'm actually just looking at their schedule right now. They ended up the season with a 64-13 loss to Lafayette Christian. Now it's Lafayette Christian. However, I mean, it was just a rough end to the rough end of the season. Yeah. And that could break any team really if you think about it. But yeah, Jace, let's go ahead and pick some of these matches from the top of the bracket. Mm-hmm. Montgomery and Vinton, who you got?
I'm going to go with Montgomery here, but I know I'm picking all the higher seeds, but that's what you get mostly most of the time in the first round.
Yeah. I'm going to have to pick Montgomery too. Welsh and West St. Mary.
I got Welsh.
Mm-hmm. Same here. Got the Greyhounds winning that one. Faraday and Lake Arthur. I'm going to have to pick Faraday in this one.
I pick Faraday as well. Yep.
North Iberville. I think we're both in agreement there.
Yeah, North Iberville.
And General Trask in Centerville.
I like General Trask, and Coach Wells has made some runs. That second round matches should be interesting, knowing that General Trask has been here before, North Iberville hasn't. So that'll be fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. And how about Grand Lake and Jonesboro Hodge?
I'm gonna go with Grand Lake to win that game.
Yeah, same here. All right, so now off to the bottom half of the bracket. You got White Castle, the 14th seed. They will host Franklin. Elton will take on Bazille. They'll take on the winner of Logansport and Varnado. Mangum will take on East Iberville. West St. John will take on Arcadia. Homer will take on East Feliciana, and then if the winner of that game, they'll play South Plaquemine in the second round. So some decent matches down the bottom of the bracket. Which one intrigues you the most?
Homer, East Feliciana. That one really intrigues me. I've actually seen East Feliciana play. They play Episcopal, and Ryan Moore is a problem. I think he's only a sophomore going to his junior year, but he is a problem. He scored all their touchdowns against Episcopal, and Episcopal's first string defense, which has been the best I've covered the last 4 years, had trouble stopping him. So he can be very dangerous in this football game. and he actually won. I think they won. I believe it was against Baker, but it was like the last play of the game, and he scored to win the football game. So he is a problem. So I'm curious to see how Homer plays them, but Homer is definitely a team that's like a Cinderella team that can make it a deep run in this playoffs. They started the season, 1-5, but you gotta consider the teams that they played. I mean, they played Haunton, Minden, Haynesville, North Webster, Union Parish, Calvary Baptist. I mean, that was what they started the season with. So the back half of the stretch, they won the games they're supposed to play, but that game should be really interesting. White Castle, Franklin, and White Castle is another team that's been kind of up and down this year. They've had some good moments. They beat North Iberville. They've had some bad moments too. So what White Castle team is going to show up? If the good White Castle team shows up, they can beat Franklin. And not only can they beat Franklin, they can beat DeQuincy. Like if this team is on. But that's the question: can they be on? So it all starts with that game against Franklin, and Franklin can also upset them. So that's going to be a topsy turvy game with 14 and 19 seed.
Mm-hmm. And Jace, let's go over some of the games real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, White Castle and Franklin, who you got? I'm gonna have to pick White Castle on that one.
Yeah, White Castle's my Cinderella here. I'm gonna go with the Bulldogs.
Mm-hmm. Elton and Bazille.
I'm gonna go with Elton.
Same here. Logansport, I think we're both in agreement with Logansport.
Yep.
All right. Mangum and East Iberville, I think we're agreement with Mangum.
Yep.
All right. I got West St. John and Arcadia.
West St. John.
Gonna pick West St. John too. West St. John's had a really good year, and that second round matchup should be very interesting.
Yeah.
If of course, if both sides win their first round games respectively, and then Homer and East Feliciana.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really good matchup, really good game. But I'm gonna go with the Pelicans and Homer, Richie Casey, and the Pelicans to find a way to win that game.
Mm-hmm. And I know, Jace, you picked Mangum to go to the state championship game, and they were to take on Haynesville. I actually had Homer going to the state championship game and taking on Haynesville. We both had Haynesville winning. The reason why I had Homer going to the state championship is because I think their non-district schedule was really tough, and I think that's going to help them in the playoffs in the down run because all the teams they played are going to be better than any of the teams that they will be playing in the playoffs, including a team like Mangum and DeQuincy. So that's why I had Homer. I've Homer upsetting South Plaquemine in the second round and then advancing to the state championship game. I had Haynesville to win it all because of their experience, and they just did it last year, and all those guys from last year are back this year as well. Jace, what about your end? And why did you pick Haynesville to win it, and then why did you pick Mangum to advance to the state championship?
Haynesville's the best team in this bracket. Not only they're the best team, Grant, they got probably one of the more favorable runs to a state championship I've seen in quite a while. I think it bears pretty good for them to get to that state championship game. And last year, as good as Haynesville's been with their state championships, going to state championship games, I think a lot of fans were shocked that they got there last year, and they were young, so it was kind of like a lanyard year. This year, you bring everybody back. You turn your quarterback back. He's dynamic. He's probably the most dynamic player in this whole bracket. So get him back. This team's going to be really tough. And David Franklin leading the way. Oak Grove is not in your way anymore. I mean, it just sets up beautifully for them. And when we look at Mangum, that's going to be the more interesting question. Who do they play in the dome? I mean, there's going to be a couple teams that you can point to. I can see Logansport. Logansport being that team as well. To me, Grant, I think there's three teams you look at as far as like legitimate contenders to be that team. You hit one of them, Homer. I think Homer, despite being a 15 seed, I think they're one of those three teams. Even though South Plaquemines had a great regular season, it's kind of what we talked about. We haven't seen South Plaquemines in this type of situation at the number 2 seed. But Homer, Mangum, and Logansport, and the reason I'm going with Mangum is it's actually looking at an impressive loss. The team that we picked to go to the state championship, Oak Grove, they lost them by a touchdown. Now I know that they lost to Washita Christian by a lot, but that's coming off that game. So you got to keep that into perspective. I think this team can play. They can show up and play against Oak Grove, which means they can beat anybody in that bottom side of the bracket, knowing that they can compete with Oak Grove. And they played some tough teams. I mean, Faraday. Now, early part they did not play tough teams. That's what got the same situation as Washita Christian. But that 3-game stretch is what you need to keep your eye on, and they went 2-1 in that 3-game stretch, so they can be really good. Coach Wilson does a great job with that football program as well. They got a great coaching staff. They're tough, physical. I like this Mangum football team a whole lot to get there to the Dome.
No doubt, Jace. And Jace, before we get to select practice, we're going to take a quick break. Should be a few minutes, and then we'll get right back to covering select. I know Jace is going to stand up and get some stretches in. I need to get some stretches in. But, when we come back, we'll discuss the select, and then we can all go to bed. How about that?
That sounds good.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to another. I don't want to say another episode. We're just taking a break. I'm tripping, guys. But anyway, we just discussed the first round matches for the non-select divisional brackets. Now we're going to move on to the select division brackets. First, we're going to start off with select Division 1. And this one's going to be very intriguing. It's a little bit top heavy.
Yeah,
it's a little bit top heavy, but there's going to be some great games down the stretch. Carr, of course, is number 1 overall seed. They are the favorite to win the state title in this bracket. Not Catholic, but Catholic still has a great chance to win it. Just Carr just looked dominant all year long. They will take on the winner of Hammond and Huntington. That should be a very interesting game. Hammond advances the playoffs for the first time. I got to look that up. It's been a little while since Hammond has been to the playoffs, let alone host one against Huntington. I think that'll be an interesting game. Another interesting game will be St. Aug and Karen Crow. Karen Crow has had a rough start of the season. They're the last team to get in. As a 24 seed, they'll travel to New Orleans to take on the Purple Knights at Tad Gormley Stadium, where they'll play St. Thomas. The winner of that game will play St. Thomas More in the second round. As St. Thomas More, it gets the first round bye. Remember, in the select divisions, because there's a little less teams, the top 8 seeds will get first round byes, not the top 4. It's going to be the top 8. So that should be an interesting second round matchup. Archbishop Rome will have the first round bye, and they'll take on the winner of 35, McDonald 35, and Riverdale. And then Catholic of Baton Rouge will have the first round bye as well. They will take on the winner of East Chef and Bonneville. Of these first round matchups, Jace, which one intrigues you the most?
I would say Hammond and Huntington, just because these are two really good coaches over there and doing a great job with programs that before they got there haven't really much to really talk about with those two teams. Stephen Dennis over there at Huntington does a great job. Dorset Belkels does a great job over there at Hammond too, and they've done a great job with the kids and just really showing that hey that they can compete and they can compete. That's a really good thing about that. I'm gonna go with Huntington though. I know that they've kind of suffered down the stretch, but this is a good reset for them. I feel like that they can go back to where they were really clicking at the start of the season, especially when they were on that 4-game winning streak, and they beat some good teams along the way. I mean, they beat Captain Shreve. I mean, they beat Evangel Christian. They beat some of these teams, Benton. So like, if they can get back to that type that when they were playing their best football around that time of year, I think they can make it hard on Hammond.
And I just want to let you know, Jace, this will be the first time they have hosted a playoff game in 20 years.
Yeah, it's a great job.
I just went to Max Preps, and I had to really go down the list and look at the going through the years, and they've had a lot of losing seasons.
They did.
But Dustin Beckles has led this program to the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years. So, and he's done a great job with this program, especially with some of the big ones they had early, including a win over Amy. And I know Amy's a 3A school. Amy's always a tough team to play, regardless of your level. So that'll be a very interesting one. Jace, let's start picking some of these winners for these games. Mm-hmm. Hammond and Huntington, who you got? I mean, this is probably the toss-up of the top half of the bracket.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. That can go either way. But I like Huntington here, and I think playing those tough teams at the beginning of the year have really helped them. I think this is a good reset. They've struggled at the last part of the stretch, and they've been into more of these playoff games. And even though Hammond has finally hosted the playoff game, I feel like they've been in more of these games more recently than Hammond has. So I'm gonna go with Huntington, the road team, to get that one.
Yeah, Jace. I think that's gonna be a very interesting one as well. I'm gonna have to pick Huntington too, just because Huntington had a tougher schedule overall. Yeah. I mean, their district schedule is insane, and they beat some good teams in the district, and that are better than they beat some teams that are better than Hammond. I know they're gonna have to travel pretty a long way, but I'm gonna have to pick Huntington to win that game. St. Aug and Karen Crow. I have St. Aug win this game. This is actually a doubleheader. Because Brother Martin and John Curtis will be playing at Ty Gormley Stadium at 3:30. So, Jace, who you got for this game?
Yeah, Coach Valdez does an awesome job with St. Augustine. You can tell the consistency is being there. I know they had some of their ups and downs this year, but I know he's going to get in the right track. It's been a disappointing season for Karen Crow. We usually expect them to be a higher season than that. Make some runs. Now they're dangerous. I mean, Chance Babineau is as good as it gets in the state, and it's great to see Carson Gursey, playing our junior high All-American game last year, and he's going to have a great future. I mean, he's the real deal. But they're just too young right now. I gotta go with St. Aug, win that football game.
Yeah, same here. I'm gonna have to pick St. Aug, and that should be a very interesting second round matchup between those two programs, St. Aug and St. Thomas More. That should be very interesting because they both have really good offenses. Yeah. However, it's a matter of can St. Aug's defense hold up too, because St. Aug's defense at times has been suspect. But moving down, 35 at Riverdale, that should be a very interesting one. 35, they've had the great finish to their season. They won their district title for the second year in a row. They started off with 2 losses to St. Aug and Carr, which, by the way,
no shame in that.
No shame in that. I know St. Aug's had their issues as well throughout the year, but this is an improved St. Aug team with a lot of talent, and Carr is Carr. Yes. But for the rest of the way, they only lost one game. That one game was to St. James,
right?
And they won the district title, and their defense has been lights out. I mean, outside of their loss to St. James, they have not allowed more than 7 points per game. I know their defense. Coach Zach is really high on his defense.
Oh yeah,
those guys came back from last year.
big defensive line guru, Frank Dag. So
yeah,
they got that side of the ball rolling.
Yeah, and I know there's some players on the defense actually put on the list, Chase, for the Gridiron Football America game. I know you guys are really high on 35, so I want to add some names to that list as well for the seniors, of course.
Right.
But Riverdale, on the other hand, Riverdale was having a great season. However, everything just seemed kind of fall apart. They were 5-2 entering the game because East Jefferson. That was the district title game. But they lost to East Jeff on a crazy play where East Jeff got a strip sack and they picked up and ran it back 60 yards for the game-winning touchdowns in the final 30 seconds of the game. And then the next game, they got upset by Bonneville to finish the season. So they finished the season with 2 straight losses. Jace, who you got in this one?
I got McDonald 35. And McDonald 35 has been in this position more consistently than Riverdale has. And to your point, those are 2 tough ways. They lost by 3 last game, too. That's those 2 tough ways to finish the season. So I'm not sure where their confidence level is after 2 tough games like that. And I just like McDonald 35 overall more than Riverdale, despite the season that they've had. And, a lot of credit goes to Coach Foster for, really putting them in a position to win that district championship. And talk about Riverdale, which is a team we haven't really talked about much in the past. So, but I'm going to go with the Ron Eagles here to move on to the next round.
Yep, I'm going to have to agree with you. And really, if 35 was in Division II select, I think they would go much farther.
Yeah,
it's kind of one of those things where they had their enrollment was, I think they're like the last goal of enrollment for Division I select, which kind of, if they were Division II select, I think they had a great shot to go far in the playoffs. But
they're a semifinal team, at least a semifinal team, I think. If they're Division II select.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially with U High being we don't know the stats of U High in the playoffs yet. We won't know until next Monday. They probably could have been a semifinal team for sure.
Yeah.
But Jace, moving on to East Jeff and Bonneville. I'm gonna have the big East Jeff in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. Coach Glover's done an awesome job with this team. They got some good talent. I think Paul Jones is over there, and Dorian Hollins for sure, the big tight end. They got some good talent, and he's done an awesome job over there. So I'm gonna go with East Jefferson with the season that they've been having.
All right, let's go to the bottom half of the bracket. And there's some interesting matchups here as well. Brother Mar and John Curtis, like I said, that's the first of a doubleheader happening in Tag-Gormley Stadium on Friday. They will play at 3:30. Brother Mar and Curtis, that should be an interesting matchup. Curtis barely squeaked by early in the regular season to win that game. And this should be a close one once again. Jesuit will take on Lafayette at the Shrine, which is by far the worst possible place to watch a high school football game. As a spectator, a fan, or a media member, it's horrible. And I hope they get that reconfigured. I don't mind games being played at the Shrine, but they definitely need to reconfigure because that could be a great place to watch a high school football. Right now, it's a baseball stadium.
It's a baseball stadium.
It's a baseball stadium. It's bad. It's really bad.
Yep.
But I think that place has a lot of potential to be a great site to watch some high school football. I really do. But they just need to reconfigure the stadium because it's a baseball stadium. They're trying to play a football game at a baseball stadium. It's just
but it's like New Orleans, right? I mean, there's so many stadiums that you need to find. Like if it's a baseball field, we gotta find and play. Like that's where we're gonna have to play.
Yep, definitely. And but anyway, they'll play. So they'll play. The winner of that game will play Turlings Catholic in the second round, and of course, the winner of Brother Martin John Curtis will take on Acadiana, as they also have a first round bye as well. So 2 interesting matches right there. St. Paul's will have a bye. In the second round, they'll take on the winner of CE Bird Woodlawn of Baton Rouge. And then this one really is probably the most interesting one in my opinion.
Yeah.
I know Curtis and Brother Mars is a really good one, but this one, as we way well know, this is the game where Pop Houston threw for 811 yards. He threw for over 800 yards, and his team still lost in the 77-76 game. It's just incredible performance by both teams, and hopefully the defensive coordinators don't die of a heart attack in the middle of the game. So all prayers to them because it's gonna be another crazy matchup.
Mhm.
So this game will actually happen on Thursday at LHSAA Stadium at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So that should be another interesting. So what do you have to say about since we're on this one? What do you have to say
Yeah.
about this matchup?
Pick the over. That's what I'm on. That's what I'm gonna say. But yeah, I mean these are two. I know we give the defensive coordinators some heat about this, but those are two good offenses, by the way, too.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so high scoring here. I'm gonna actually pick this game already since we're on the conversation about it. I think Evangel wins this game because they've
Ooh.
they've heard about Pop Houston threw for 800 yards, 10 touchdowns, and they lost like over and over and over again. I think that's going to motivate this Evangel team, and I think that it's hard to be a good team twice. That's what Nick Saban always used to say. It's hard to be a good team twice,
Yes.
and a close game like last time, it's hard to do that again. I'm gonna go with the upset here. I think Evangel's gonna pull it off.
Mhm. I think so too. Um, I mean, I think it's Evangel will, although this game could
I
go
like
either way.
I actually like Captain Street better as a team, but I think there's a lot of motivation for Evangel to win this one.
Yes. All right, let's go back to go back a little bit to the top. Brother Martin Curtis, who you got?
I got John Curtis. I know it's been a difficult season for John Curtis, especially like their which is shocking. Their first losing season since when he started this program, when JT started his football program, as a 22-year-old, which is mind blowing to me. But John Curtis, like it's still John Curtis, so like they still have the JC. I mean, like on their helmet, like they're going to make a run now. Brother Morin's well coached too. Morin Bernice does an awesome job of that team. And as a Catholic, both these two teams are familiar with each other. But I'm gonna go with John Curtis, and they're going. They've been motivated. I think they've been hearing about first losing season since 1969. Like they've heard all that, but they're going to be out to prove it. And technically, if they win that game, they go back to 500, right? So we have a chance to get back to 500, and that'll set up the Veer game between Acadiana and John Curtis, so that happens.
Definitely, that's gonna be an interesting one. Jesuit and Lafayette. I'm gonna pick the Jesuit to win this one. Although
Yeah,
Lafayette does have some a high, their explosive offense.
yep.
However, Jesuits played teams that are just explosive as Lafayette, and they've shut them down. Gonna have to pick the Blue Jays in this one. How about
Yeah.
you, Jets?
Yeah, I agree. I think Jesuit's really the dark horse in this bracket. So keep an eye on Jesuit. Like you mentioned, Lafayette's got some offensive firepower as well. They got some really good athletes. I know Sonye is a quarterback over there, and he's a really good player. And Cavante Landry is still over there, plays quarterback, receiver. They got some weapons over there at Lafayette, but I'm gonna go with Jesuit. Their defense is just too tough.
I'm gonna have the big Jesuit as well, and then the last one, CE Bird and Woodlawn.
I'm gonna go with CE Bird, especially they're used to playing these type of games. Their offense is tough to stop and tough to defend. I don't think Woodlawn will have a great answer for it, so I'm gonna go with the Yellow Jackets.
All right, that will wrap up Select Division 1. Now we're on to Select Division 2. This one's pretty much the favorite to win that one was this one is Shaw. But actually, in the last one, Jace, I actually forgot to mention this. We both, you had Carr over at Acadiana. We both had Carr and Acadiana advanced to the state championship.
Yeah,
Carr beating Acadiana. I know we both picked them just based off of experience. They've been They've been dying to get back to the state championship game. This is the first time if they do, it'll be the first one since 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Acadiana is at state runner-ups. I know you picked them, and we both picked them because of experience.
Yeah.
But what do you have to say about that matchup?
That'll be awesome.
A potential matchup, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like that would be an awesome matchup in the Dome because Acadiana was also the team that did not end the car last year from going to the Dome. So that would just a revenge factor too on everybody's minds. That's really great. And Acadiana is going to be tough. I mean, like they've won. They went to the state championship last year. They won back-to-back state championships in, I believe, 2019 and 2020, I believe, off the top of my head. But this might be their best team If you think about it, like their most balanced team because they can also throw the football too, and I think that's what makes them dangerous. I would like to see them against and the car and talk about balanced teams. And the car is that. I mean, they can win any type of way you want to. If they have to play, they have to run the football and play good defense. They'll do that. If they have to go in a shootout, they'll win it that way. They're well coached, and both these two teams know what it takes not only to play in the dome but to win in the dome. So like these are two well coached teams, and that's going to be a really fun game if it happens in the Superdome.
Mm-hmm. All right. Moving on to Division Two select. Uh, I think Shaw is the overall favorite to win this one. They will have to take on the winner of Loranger and Kenner Discovery. That could be a positive game right
Yeah,
there. Both Loranger has some talented players as well.
yeah,
Kenner Discovery, they've always kind of a little bit. They've always overachieved as well. So
Mhm.
that's a really interesting matchup. Lake Charles College Prep will take on McKinley, and the winner of that one will take on JFK. Madison Prep will have a bye as well, as they're the 5th seed, which means they're a top 8 seed. So if you're top 8 seed, you get the bye. They'll take on the winner of St. Charles Catholic and Northside. Shruma will take on Booker T. Washington of Shreveport. The winner of that game will take on Haynes Academy. That's the first half of the bracket. That's second half of the bracket. Let's talk about the first half of the bracket. Which matchup kind of intrigues you here? I know these aren't really intriguing games on paper, but which game could you see could be the biggest toss-up between all these first-round matchups?
It is 16 versus 17. It's Loranger and it's Kenner Discovery. I mean, Loranger has got a very underrated quarterback too. He's a good one. And then their running back. I talked to Coach Messina before the season, and he said he's the best one he's coached. He's up there at least for one of the best he's ever coached. So they're really good offensively. Kenner Discovery. I mean, PJ Sprung does an awesome job with that team. I mean, I don't think he gets enough credit because I mean he does more of less every single year, and he does an awesome job promoting the kids. And PJ is also going to be one of our head coaches this year for a Gridiron Football American Bowl game. So I'm super excited for him to have that opportunity to coach in the bowl game. So, but I like Loranger here though. I think Loranger is going to win this football game. I think they're going to have, and they've played some of these teams like Franklinton tough. They played like some of the better teams pretty tough. So I'm going to go with Loranger here to win that one and escape that one against Kenner.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick Loranger there as well. Moving on down, Lake Charles College Prep and McKinley. Who you got?
I got Lake Charles College Prep. I know that was an interesting one because with the whole situation with U High, I know Peabody was in there at 24. Now McKinley's in there, so that was a whole different situation. But either way, I have Lake Charles College Prep winning that game no matter what.
Mm-hmm. And St. Charles, I have to agree with you there, but St. Charles Catholic Northside, I think we're both in agreement that St. Charles Catholic win that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Astruma and Booker T. Washington Shreveport. Okay, we're both in agreement that Astruma is going to win that game.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
Easy peasy.
On the next, we got Edie White, first round bye. They'll take on the winner of Frederick A. Douglass and Livingston Collegiate. That will take place at 5:00 p.m. at Pan American Stadium on Saturday. Then you have St. Michael versus Archbishop Hannon. That game will take place at Olympia Stadium in Baton Rouge on Friday. They'll take that. So if the winner of this Frederick Douglass and Livingston Collegiate would take on Edie White, the winner of St. Michael the Archangel and Archbishop Hannon will take on Vanderbilt Catholic in the second round. Then going down, Leesville will have a first round bye. They'll take on the winner of Loyola at Prep and Sophie B. Wright in the second round. Then you have Buckeye taking on Booker T. Washington, New Orleans, and the winner of that will play either U High or they'll advance to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, this is pretty good. If you win that football game, you blink and you're in the quarters.
Yeah. So, Chase, which matchup intrigues you down here?
Yeah, down here. I think it's Buckeye Booker T. Washington just because of what's at stake. Because you win that football game, you're in the quarterfinals, basically. So, I would have to say Buckeye, Booker T. Washington. And, Booker T. Washington probably has better talent on paper. You know, look at Buckeye,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been a tough season. I mean, 3 wins this year for Booker T. Washington, and you look at Buckeye this year. I know that they won 6 games. They're 6-3, 6-4. So and they've won a rivalry game as well, a big time rivalry game too this year, earlier this season as well against Hoyer Saber Menard. I think it's like the weird, like they call it, I think like the Squirrel Bowl or something like it. It's something like that. They call it up there. But I'm gonna go with Buckeye and Buckeye here.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Buckeye wins this football game, man, we're talking about quarterfinals. So I mean,
Oh my God. That's such a mess. Oh my God. All
yeah,
right. All
yeah.
right. Moving on. So we already picked that. I'm going to pick Buckeye on that one too. Frederick Douglass and Livingston Collegiate. Frederick Douglass is looking at their schedule. They are 6-2. They only played 8 games this year. One of them was a bye, and the other one, of course, was canceled because of the hurricane that happened early this year. But yeah, their 2 losses, they only scored 6 points, and looking at they got outscored 103 to 12 in those 2 losses against Kentwood and McDonald 35, but they won in every other game.
Yeah.
And they finished second place in district. Livingston Collegiate, on the other hand, they started the season 5-2 with an impressive victory over South Plaquemine, but they finished the season with a 3-game losing streak. So Jason, you got on that one?
Just because of how the teams are trending, I'm going to go with Frederick Douglass at home. I kind of lean towards as well. At this time of year, Grant, if you got to be playing your best football, you got to be hot, you got to be feeling confident about yourself in the playoffs. So I'm going to go with Frederick Douglass to get that round win.
All right, St. Michael and Archbishop Hannon. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with St. Michael's been a tough year for Archbishop Hannon, and I've seen St. Michael against Episcopal. They're tough and stingy, so I'm gonna go with the Warriors.
Yep. All right, and then how about Loyola Prep? So, okay, we're both agreeing that Loyola Prep's winning that game, right?
Yes, yep.
All right, and before we wrap things up, we both had you had Shaw winning over Edie White in the state championship game. So did I. Jace, I think we both came to agreement that Shaw is the best team in this this bracket. Just given how they played recently, and then also Edie White. That's also considering that U High will be out of the playoffs. We don't know the stats yet because remember they're still in a lawsuit. So that will be determined on Monday. So we had no idea what the hell's happening there. So let's just say that U High, let's say they lost their court case, which probably is the most likely result. You had Edie White going to the state championship game. So Jace, what led to the conclusion that you had?
Yeah, even with if let's say U High does win this court case, I'm not 100% guaranteed that U High gets there because a lot of this lingering around. Do they get in? Do they not get in? I mean, it's a lot of talk that way. And Edie White's just a good football team. I mean, I saw them against Letcher, and even though they came on the losing end of that one, I came away very impressed. Grant Barbera is a really good quarterback. Running that offense for Edie White. They can run the football too, but they're just so disciplined on defense. They got a really good linebacking core over there at Edie White. It's tough really getting past them. They're just well disciplined, a really good football team. Coach Lassane does an awesome job coaching that team as well. But I'm going with them to go to the state championship, and to me, Shaw's got a couple of speed bumps along the way. Like John F. Kennedy could definitely be that, and Madison Prep could definitely be that. But by and large, they're the best team in this bracket, bar none, and I expect them to have a pretty decent path to the Superdome.
All right, now on to a much better bracket. Oh
Yeah.
my god!
Yeah,
that was rough. Those teams are like bad or anything like that. In all respect to those programs, it's just that like that is by far probably the weakest one, and that's also because you have to factor in that U High may not be in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's just Shaw should win that one. If they don't, it'll be a huge shocker. However, I'll say this: that potential quarterfinal matchup against JFK, if JFK does advance that far, will be very interesting.
That's their toughest game, Grant, and that's
Yeah.
that's a quarterfinal game. I mean, I have high respect for Ed White, but I think that's their toughest draw in
Yeah.
that playoff bracket.
Oh yeah, because if it weren't for their if they didn't break state rules, I mean they would be a top 3 seed. They would, or actually they would be the number 2 seed. They would be the number 2 seed, actually, in my opinion. But moving on to select Division 3. This one is going to be a very good bracket. Dunham is the number 1 seed in this one. They will take on the winner of Parkview Baptist and Lafayette Renaissance Charter. Lafayette Christian will take on Beekman Charter, and the winner of that one will take on Notre Dame in the second round. Bunkie gets a first round bye, like Notre Dame and Dunham. They will take on the winner of Amy and Sarah T. Reed. And that potential Amy the Bunkie matchup should be a very, very, very interesting matchup. If everything works out. Slaughter Community Charter will take on Thomas Jefferson. The winner of that game will take on 4-seeded Jewel Sumner. Calvary Baptist. That's the second half of the bracket. Yep. So we're going to start talking about the first half. Jason, of these matchups, which one intrigues you? I know these aren't really some strong matchups. I think all the strongest ones will actually be at the second half of the bracket. But what do you like? But I think the most intriguing one is this Parkview Baptist Renaissance matchup. So what do you like about this one?
Yeah, Lafayette Renaissance, it's like the new kid in town, right? I mean, and Parkview Baptist is like the old sheriff, right? So I mean, you look at it, Parkview Baptist is not as good of a year just because they have to replace a lot of guys from last year, including their quarterback last year. So they're a little bit younger this year, but they're still well coached. I mean, their kids are going to be in a really good position to be successful. So, and the game's at home. It's tough to play at Parkview. And Lafayette Renaissance has been an explosive team. I know that that's going to be a team you look in the next couple of years. That could be another LCA type of year, and type of program. And Hunter Landry, who was over at LCA, Trev Falk is over there. So a lot of those guys that helped build LCA are over there at Lafayette Renaissance. It reminds me a lot when those guys left Evangel to form Calvary Baptist. So it kind of reminds me of that situation. But I like Parkview Baptist's experience here in these games, in these playoff games. Even though I think Lafayette Renaissance might have the better roster and the better talent, I'm going to go with experience here. But that should be a really intriguing first round matchup between those two teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jace, and I'm gonna think we're gonna pick Parkview Baptist to win this one. Although I do think it'd be very close.
Yeah.
Lafayette Christian and Beekman Charter, I think we're both in agreement that Lafayette Christian will win that one. And then AB and Sarah T. Reed, I think we're both in, really the next two matches. I think we're both in agreement that AB it's gonna be Sarah T. Reed. And Slaughter Community Charter is gonna be Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, I'm going chalk here as well. And Slaughter Charter is an interesting team. Like they are pretty sneaky. I'm not saying they're going to beat Jewel Sumner, but I wouldn't be surprised they punch them in the mouth early. I mean, because like that's a team not to really overlook.
Yeah, definitely, Jace. Moving on to the second half of the bracket, Calvary Baptist will have a first round bye. They'll take on the winner of De La Salle and Fisher. Pope John Paul II. They will take on Holy Savior Menard. They will take on Episcopal, who has a first round bye.
Yep.
Jace, very familiar with that Episcopal team. As you're the announcer of VSN. And that's a game also that you can't not pick the winner of because of your affiliation with Episcopal. So sucks for you. Anyway, Catholic New Iberia will also have a first round bye. They'll take on the winner of North End Christian and St. Louis Catholic, which should be a very interesting one. And Darby Woods Charter will take on Country Day, and the winner of that one will take on Newman. Of these matchups, Jace, which one interests you the most?
Looking at it, I would say Pope John Paul and Holy Savior Menard. Just because the reason I bring that game up is because Pope John Paul hasn't been in this position. I mean, that's what I'm looking at. I mean, on paper, probably Northlake Christian and St. Louis Catholic's probably a better game to talk about. But I'm interested in how Pope John Paul does in this situation as a higher seed with the type of season they've had, hosting a home playoff game. And also, I got my eyes on it because that's who Episcopal plays next round. So I'll be calling that playoff game. So that's another big reason why I'm keeping my eye on that one.
Definitely, Jace. And Jace, we're gonna start picking some matchups. I think that's a very good one as well. De La Salle and Fisher, who you got?
I got De La Salle, I got the Cavaliers, and this is actually one of the better passing teams they've had in their program at De La Salle. So they've been known for running the football, but they can throw it this year. So I'm gonna go with De La Salle.
hmm I'm gonna have to go with De La Salle as well. Uh, Pope John Paul II and Holy Savior Menard, who you got?
I think the Knights, I'll be calling a VS game between Episcopal and Pope John Paul.
Yep,
That's,
I'm gonna have to
that's
agree
what
with
I'll
you
be
there.
calling the game.
Pope John Paul II is a pretty good team, and I think they'll give Episcopal some problems as well. Northwood Christian and St. Louis Catholic. Actually, I looked it up. St. Louis Catholic only has one win of the year, which
Yeah.
is pretty shocking considering the year they had last year.
They got
But
coaching change this year too.
yeah,
That plays into dividends as well with
oh
Brock
yeah,
McClellan taking that job.
yeah. So Brock McClure took left to take the EA job, and then they brought in Dustin Nothnagel
Newman's
from
defensive
Newman.
coordinator.
Yep. And so I'm gonna have to pick Northwood Christian to win that one.
Yep, I like Cameron Casnave, and I've called that Episcopal game against Northlake Christian. Episcopal ran away with Northlake Christian, but that first half, it was tight, and Northlake Christian was winning at halftime. So this is a sneaky team in Northlake Christian.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna have to pick Gerald Woods over Country Day.
Yeah.
With the one that went. And Jace, before we wrap this thing up, before we go on the Division 4 select, you had Calvary winning over Dunham. I actually had Calvary winning, but I had Amy winning. I had Amy losing Calvary. I had Amy advancing the state championship. I picked Amy because I like their size, speed, their strength, and they were playing some really good football. They lost their last game of the year. So they're on a 7-game winning streak until they lost against Joel Sumner in overtime, and Joel Sumner was able to win the district title. I think the Amy Joel Sumner game will determine who goes to the state championship because Dunham, although as talented as they are, I think both those teams have the type of players needed to beat a team like Dunham.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Dunham's year is probably more likely to be next year. I just don't. I mean, as great as Dunham is, it'll be. I think they're definitely a semifinal team. However, they're gonna have a tough road because after the second round, they'll have a quarterfinal matchup between either Lafayette Christian or Notre Dame. I think both those teams could give them problems, and then of course in the semifinals, the Bunky, Amy, and Joel Sumner, I think will give them all problems, given the players they had, the size, speed, and athleticism that all three of those teams have. But Calvary Baptist, of course, I think we both agree that Calvary Baptist is just loaded this year. So, Jace, why'd you pick Dunham to run the field and go to the Dome, where they ultimately will lose to Calvary, in your opinion?
Yeah, the reason why I picked Dunham and by the way, the top side of the bracket's ridiculous. I'm not shocked you picking Amy. I wouldn't be shocked they play in the Dome. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Bunky or Joel Sumner. I just wouldn't be shocked. The reason I picked Dunham though, not just because they're the number 1 seed, but they were vulnerable this year, and they still won. They weren't their best. They played some really ugly games, and they still won. And that tells me a lot about that team because it's easy when Elijah Haven throwing for 4 or 5 touchdowns, with ease. It looks really good on paper. They're blowing people out. That looks great, right? But them actually going through some adversity. They went through some adversity against Episcopal. It was only 6-0 at halftime and in bad conditions, and they found a way to win that game. The passing game was not clicking against Ascension Catholic, the number 2 seed in the next bracket we're about to talk about. They found a way to win. St. Charles Catholic, you covered that game, right? It wasn't pretty from Dunham. They found a way to win, and that's what matters. And we can talk about, everybody talks about Elijah Haven. He deserves a lot of praise. He's a real deal, but they're not a flashy team. They're going to run the football. They're tough. Their defense doesn't get the credit. Their defense is really good, really awesome. And I think their ability to run the football, play good defense, and then when you got a guy like that and say, hey, Elijah, we just need you to make plays when we need you to make plays, and you have that dude doing that, and it doesn't have to be all on him, that's why I got the Dunham Tigers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this ballot. I think with this bracket, there's so many good teams that I think any decision to have a team go far is a valid decision. However, Dunham, I have some concerns about Dunham.
And rightfully so, because they haven't played pretty in a lot
Right,
of those
and
games.
in the top half of the bracket, that's where a lot of the tougher teams are, in my opinion. In terms of like, that's just a lot of times when you look at the playoffs, sometimes not only you have to look past the results of the regular season, but then also you have to look at the matchups and how does I think as you get to the quarterfinals, those potential quarterfinals and semifinals matchups, those matches could be a bad could be a bad matchup for Dunham, just given what those teams bring to the table. So that's why I don't have Dunham going to state championship. I have them losing in the semifinals.
But one more note, Grant, if they won all these games by like 30, 40 points, it looked pretty doing it, I would probably go on with you. I probably would have picked Amy or a team because they didn't play a game like that. But since they played some of these ugly type of games, that means they can play those type of games. So that gives me a little bit of confidence going to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to the very last bracket before we wrap things up. Vermilion Catholic is the number 1 overall seed. They'll take on the winner of Westminster Christian and Delta Charter, which should be a good one. St. Martin's Episcopal will take on Delhi Charter. The winner of that game, which most likely will be St. Martin's Episcopal, they'll play St. Edmund in the second round.
That'll be a fun game.
Yep. Essentially, Episcopal will take on Kentwood in this. To take on the winner of Kentwood and St. Mary's in the second round. And Southern Lab, the winner of Southern Lab and Sacred Heart will take on St. Frederick as they had a first round bye. And that will wrap up the first half of the bracket. I mean, there's a lot, like we said, Jace, I think, we said this on the Ball in the Boot, actually, when we looked at the bracket. And then you look further down the bracket as well. This is the deepest bracket that there is. I think the first round match will be a little bit easier to pick. But as soon as you get down the list, you're like,
second round games, get your popcorn ready. The second round games are awesome. Get your popcorn ready once next week hits.
Yeah, I mean, there could be some crazy upsets in Division 4 to select. And you can even say they're upsets because all the teams are very, very good. Very, very good. I know you've got a chance to see some of these teams play, as I have too. I've seen St. Martin's Episcopal. I've gotten a chance to see Southern Lab in the past. I mean, these are some really well-coached teams. A lot of teams, where I've seen Riverside. I know you've also seen Catholic Port Capri. I know you've seen St. Edmund. I know you've seen the Central Catholic. There's a lot of really good teams in this bracket. I mean, I think this is the deepest bracket besides Division 1 non-select. If you look at the teams that could potentially run the table and go on the win team, and also Division 2 non-select as well. But Jace, let's talk about let's talk about this Westminster Christian Delta Charter game. This could be this is the most interesting game on the top half of the bracket.
Yeah, I mean Delta Charter. Just a couple weeks ago, we're talking about high scoring games this year. They were an 84-82 overtime win game against General Trask, and that was a game where Tyron Singleton, he was actually a Gridiron Football Player of the Week that week. They have a guy like that. They got some pretty good talent over there at Delta Charter. That's going to be an intriguing game. But Westminster Christian, their running back, he's playing in a Gridiron Football All-American Bowl game. I saw him last year, and he's a good one. Michael Cunningham over there at Westminster Christian. And, they're a blue-collar team at Westminster Christian. So, they beat St. Edmund last year. I mean, they beat Opelousas Catholic this year. That's a really good team. Coach Porter, I mean, they're a tough-nosed, hard-nosed football team. And that's going to be a fun matchup. If I encourage you, that's actually one of the games on my radar, looking at Westminster and Delta Charter. That can go either way. But that's going to be probably one of the more interesting round 1 games, regardless of classification.
Yeah. Didn't they have some player that was on from Westminster Christian that was on our player of the week? Remember the player of the week? We had 2 guys. I think it was from the Westminster Christian Lafayette where they had
that was Lafayette. That was Stomps.
But this is them. This is them.
That's them. That's not the Opelousas Westminster.
Oh no. Actually, this is Opelousas. This is Westminster Christian. See, this is how I have a problem. They have 2 schools named Westminster Christian virtually in the same area.
Even the mascots. We haven't addressed the mascots, Grant. One's the Chargers, one's the Crusaders. So they're all it starts with the letter C. So
yeah. I mean, so this is Westminster Christian of Opelousas. They don't have that on the bracket, so I was confused for a second. Okay. Okay.
Okay, I was talking about the right team then the whole time. So.
You're good. You're good. I'm speaking.
Okay.
I mean, it's just. Oh boy, I don't know. Just change. Can you change the name to Christ the King or something like that?
Something different.
Something different. So it doesn't confuse me and Jace. I mean, my God.
I guess you have Woodlawn of Shreveport, Woodlawn and Baton Rouge.
But I mean that's
Washington, Shreveport, and New Orleans.
That's public school. We're talking about Christian school, right? You know what I'm saying? Public school's a little bit. You're gonna have multiple schools, now there's Catholic High, Port Capee, Catholic High, Baton Rouge. There's a lot of different.
I think it's under the same ownership, and that's why it's two locations. And I think that's why it's like that. It's like two.
So they both play. If that's the case, then oh my God. Just merge both. Just merge both of them. If that's the case, then merge both of them.
Yeah, you would think that.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm good. Who you got in this game? You got Westminster Christian?
I got Westminster Christian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go. I think let's go either way, but I'm probably gonna have to go with you with Westminster Christian on this one. St. Martin's Episcopal and Delhi Charter. I think we're both agreeing that St. Martin's Episcopal will win. Okay.
So Delhi Charter stopping Harlem Berry. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Congratulations. You get to play Harlem Berry in the St. Martin's Episcopal Saints, but mostly Harlem Berry because he might run for 400 yards.
He might not have to. This is what this could remind me of. I saw Travis Etienne in a playoff game against Bruley. He touched the ball 4 times, and he's in the first quarter. That was it. That could be it for St. Martin's. He touches the ball 4 times, gets a drink of water, and that's it.
Lee sent you to that game?
Yeah, it was like a first round playoff game, and I didn't mind it because I was like, hey, I want to see Travis Etienne play.
Okay.
So it was one of those things where I didn't mind, but yeah, he touched the ball 4 times, and that was it.
So you just left? So did you leave after that? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I left early. Yeah,
that's a good deal.
That's all I want to see. I want to see Travis Etienne and have that night, and I did.
All right, cool. All right, Kenwood is St. Mary's. Okay, Kenwood. We're both agreeing for Kenwood. Okay. And then Southern Lab. Okay, so we're all in agreement.
Southern Lab as well. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Bottom half of the bracket. See, the first round's gonna be easy. The second round, oh boy.
The second round's gonna be tough. I mean, that is all those games are gonna be good.
I played the 5th for the second round. You want?
Yeah.
Anyways, Covenant Christian will have a first round bye. Remember, they finished the season 10-0. Great season for the Lions, and of course Jesse Turner. Just a great coaching job, and he will be up for Coach of the Year. For sure. And they'll take on the winner of Central Catholic and Lincoln Prep. Covenant Christian actually just took on Central Catholic last week for the district title, a game which Covenant Christian did in fact win. Central Catholic will take on Lincoln Prep. That should be a decent one right there. Washington Christian will take on Glenbrook. Okay, I'm just gonna say Washington Christian's winning that game, so let's get that one.
I'm gonna save you the suspense there. That's all I was gonna say. Yeah.
All right, so the Catholic Pork will be the first round bye. They will take on, most likely will be Washington Christian. I think that's a done deal, so we're going to skip that. Riverside Academy has a first round bye. They'll take on the winner of Hamilton Christian St. John. I think Hamilton Christian will win that one. Both agreement there. Let's get over that.
I'm going to say, though, one thing about this game.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Because I know a little bit of the situation here because they played Hamilton Christian.
Mm-hmm.
It was 46-40.
Oh, that's right. That was the guy. Yeah.
Keep an eye on that one because that's a rematch of a game earlier this year, and St. John could have easily won it. It was 46-40. So just keep your eye on it. But Javon Vital over there at the quarterback for Hamilton Christian is the real deal. When you're talking about future stars in the state, check out their quarterback. He is the real deal.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then you got Opelousas Catholic and Westminster Christian of Lafayette. That's the school I was referring to earlier. Yeah. So that's what I meant to say. But I mean, again, the confusion with the Westminster Christian. I mean, it's one thing to have the same school. I'll say this because you mentioned Woodlawn of Shreveport and Woodlawn of Baton Rouge, and then Booker T. Washington of Shreveport and Booker T. Washington of New Orleans. Those are in 2 different areas of the state.
Yeah, That's also true.
I mean, this is both in the same
area.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that Wapaloosa's Catholic Westminster Christian game, it should be the most intriguing matchup of the second round. What do you like about this game?
It's going to be a high scoring. I mean, both teams are going to put up some points. But I like Opelousas Catholic's offense, and they've been a little bit on the heater. That they struggled earlier in the season. I mean, they lost to St. Edmund and also, Westminster, and that's why they've fallen a little bit seeding wise, but they're still really dangerous offensively. Rowan Bazeron, Roderick Tazino, like they got some weapons over there. Opelousas Catholic. Westminster Christian can put up some points as well. David Beasley's a underrated player in this bracket, but they're not going. I don't think they're going to keep up with Opelousas Catholic, which has set up an interesting matchup against Ascension Catholic. Because if you remember anything about this game last year, that was a Chad Elsie game. We're in 9 touchdowns, so we'll see if we see that game again.
Definitely. And then who you got in that one?
I got Opelousas Catholic winning.
Okay, I got the same here. And then Hamilton Christian, I think I'm going to pick Hamilton Christian that one.
I'm still going to lean with Hamilton Christian. Yeah, it's tough to be a team that you're familiar with and you barely beat the first time, but I think they'll find a way. And they have the best player on the field, so I'm going to go with Hamilton Christian.
Yeah. And then Central Catholic and Lincoln Brown. Who you got?
I'm going to go with Central Catholic. Coach Grogan's a really underrated coach, and they're going to be tough and hard-nosed. And that game against Covenant Christian is not going to be – don't give that all Mac to Covenant Christian. I can tell you that right now.
And I had Vermilion Catholic winning the state championship over Washington Christian. You had Vermilion Catholic as well winning the state championship, but you had it over Riverside. What do you like about Riverside going to the state championship?
Yeah, they got so many options offensively. And this is a bracket. I'm going to save you the suspense, Grant. You're going to have to score points. You're going to have to score points in this bracket. It's an offensive bracket.
Yeah.
And I like Riverside's offense. Not only Dedrick Lasty, but they returned their quarterback as well from last year. They got 2 really good weapons on the outside. They can not only run it, but they can throw it. Dedrick Lasty is one of the best players in this bracket. And I just have this feeling that we'll see a Dedrick Lasty and John D'Artes. It's going to be one of these brackets I talked about on Ball in the Boot that somebody's going to end up being a high school legend from this bracket. Because somebody's going to have to carry that team, whether it's John D'Artes, Vermilion Catholic. I mean, you talked about, Chad Elsie. He could have this type of run for Ascension Catholic. Harlan Berry, not the realm of possibility, what he just goes off, and they have a big-time run. So there's going to be a player that's going to have this type of run to lead their football team.
All right, that's going to wrap up today's show. Jace, thanks for hopping on. I know you had some stuff to deal with, and that's an hour. It's been an hour. I think an hour and 30 minutes. I don't know. I lost track of time, but
I'm gonna stay a little bit later than then make up for the time. So
no problem. Good. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but once again, we will have our live show on Friday. Our nightcap show discussing all the first round. We'll recap the first round. So it should be some good matchups. So, Jace, what game are you going to this Friday? Actually,
I'm on hold for right now. I probably won't pick until Thursday because there is a slight chance I may call a game for VSN, but it's not confirmed yet. So if I don't get a text message by like tomorrow or Thursday, then I'll announce where I'm going.
Okay.
But I'm on standby just because of that.
Right, exactly. But yeah, and so I'll be going to Chachere and Washington Parish this weekend. But once again, our show should be up around 11 o'clock p.m. Sometimes it might be 11:15, depending on whether or not me and Jace get back in time. Just because obviously, the game could be in overtime. You could have a 73-55 game, which is a game that Jace was at last week, which is Zachary and Catholic. So it should be around 11. We'll announce it and everything, and it should be a good one. And then, of course, I know the first rounds could be uneventful. However, there's always going to be a shocking upset or two that could happen that me and Jess are going to discuss. Second round is really the one where there's a lot of really good matches. A lot of teams are going to be an upset alert, I think, next week. Not only just this week, but next week especially. So it should be a good one. I'm Grant Chachere, the owner of Ruger Sports Media and also a reporter for Crescent City Sports. gridiron.com. Jace LeJeune of Gridiron Football. Glad to have on Jace weekly, and also vice versa when I appear on his show.
Yeah.
Both his stuff for our breakdowns for each bracket will be up tomorrow, as Jace said earlier in the show.
And it'll be by bracket. So instead of having to go find and skim through the whole show, if you want to see Division 3, go see Division 3 segment. If you want to see Division 4, go see Division 4. So it'll be easier for them to access which bracket they want to look at.
Yeah, exactly. And there's still a lot of really good brackets out there. But Jace, thanks for hopping on, and we'll see you guys on Friday night.
Yeah.